Good evening, everyone. I'm calling to order the Housing Authority of the City of Salem to order for Monday, July 14th, 2025. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Tigan.
Present.
Commissioner Matthews.
Here.
Vice Chair Gwynn.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Present.
Commissioner Vang.
Here.
Commissioner Nordyke.
Here.
Commissioner Varney.
Here.
Resident Commissioner Villegas is absent, and Chair Nishioka.
I'm here. Thank you. I'd like everyone to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I believe a display of the flag will be present. Maybe I'll just begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. All right, great. Vice Chair Gwynn, do we have any additions or deletions?
There are no additions or deletions to the agenda tonight.
Wonderful, thank you. We don't have any public comment under 2. Vice Chair again, to consent calendar.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
And who did the second?
Councilor Varney, or
Councilor Varney. Thank you very much. All right. To your motion.
Our consent agenda this evening consists of the minutes from our June 23rd Salem Housing Authority meeting. And that is it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Will the recorder please call the roll? I am assuming there's no questions. I should ask that first. All right. Thank you. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Nordyke.
Aye.
Commissioner Varney.
Aye.
Commissioner Tigan.
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gwynn.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Vang.
Aye.
Resident Commissioner Villegas is absent. Chair Nishioka.
Aye. Thank you. There are no action items. There's no resolutions. So we are now to our public hearing. So I will turn it over to Jessica Blakely.
I'm going to read the script.
Yes. Thank you. And I just want to ask if anyone has any conflicts of interest that they need to recognize at this point. All right, I don't see any. Thank you, recorder. Go right ahead.
The Salem Housing Authority Commission will now conduct a public hearing to consider the adoption of resolution number 2316, approving the Salem Housing Authority Annual Public Housing Agencies Plan, Capital Fund Plan, and Moving to Work Supplement to the PHA Plan. The hearing will begin with a staff presentation followed by other interested persons. Individuals testifying must provide their name and their address or ward number. Individuals testifying are limited to 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. So I believe now we have Jessica Blakely joining us.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jessica Blakely. I'm the Deputy Director with the Salem Housing Authority. I want to take a moment first to thank the community who provided us with feedback as we created this new activities section outlined in our plan. I want to specifically address the new elements tonight in this plan and will not be covering the plan in its entirety due to how long that might take. Tonight, we will focus on elements of the Public Housing Authority plan that are new. So the revisions of the existing PHA plan elements. The following elements have been revised by the Public Housing Authority since its last 5-year plan. In this, we note new activities under public housing demolition and disposition activities. and the conversion of our public housing units through the Section 18 program. We have 137 units that are still in the public housing program, and they have been determined to be a good candidate for this program. I'd like to address first the two multifamily buildings that we have in our portfolio. As you can see by the age of these pictures and the vehicles in them, which I thought would be fun to provide, we have two very outdated public housing buildings, one named Shelton Village, which is located on 25th and Lee Street. This is scheduled to go on sale this summer in 2025. And we have been working on this disposition for over 2 years. So it's not a new program to us, but we're finally seeing it through to its fruition. Secondly, the third picture that you see is Glen Creek Village on Orchard Heights Road in Salem, Oregon. That one as well has been working in land use and floodplains issues for over 6 years. And right now we're ready to move on with its disposition. And the intent for this one is to demolish the building and rebuild it into higher density. The biggest part of the plan for which I bring to your attention tonight is addressing our scattered site projects, which, as you can see from the map on your screen, they are located all throughout the city of Salem, and there are 4 in the city of Kaiser. So these are 79 units total. Some are single family dwellings, some are duplexes, some are triplexes. And so there's quite a big mix. And out of that, there are 22 bedrooms, 51 3 bedrooms, and 8 4-bedroom units. Our plan is to take all of these houses and instead of selling them on the market, like HUD recommends at fair market value, we have met with community partners and devised a plan that we think is very important and actually would turn all of these 79 homes into some form of affordable homeownership. We have 33 homes that we intend to sell at a reduced price to Habitat for Humanity. The reason behind that is because Habitat for Humanity, as of right now, has been really taking single-family dwellings that are on large lots and demolishing them and rebuilding them into middle housing. One of their other projects is to potentially renovate a duplex or a triplex, or maybe a single family home through use of their programmatic funds, and then also put those out on the market for affordable homeownership options through their programs. So there's lots of different things that Habitat for Humanity will do with those 33 units, and it could turn 33 into more, depending on the amount of density they're able to achieve with any of the lots that we have designated. We designated these 33 as options to sell at lower rates because we feel those either provide a different level of opportunity or they're really not suited in places that we find to be close to transportation, close to schooling. Maybe they're in a food desert. So we've marked them as ones that maybe won't fit into the programs that we want to use them for. The remaining 46 units that are located in that bucket, we find are excellent candidates to stay with the actual house that's on the lot, as well as the dwelling that's attached to it. So, for example, one of them is located in a South Salem neighborhood on a cul-de-sac close to schools and shopping. We find that provides some very excellent self-sufficiency opportunities, so we can actually sell that house outright in a different type of program, like maybe a silent second mortgage, or maybe we could find other ways to partner with another nonprofit. What that means, a silent second, is that the Housing Authority has looked into opportunities with our partner, Umpqua Bank, and many people can't afford to buy a house in today's market. So our idea is to keep them affordable. So if somebody is only able to finance, say, $150,000, we would be able to come behind that with a silent second mortgage and allow for a forgivable loan that's repayable after 30 years. So essentially it would whittle down to zero over those 30 years and allow for it to be transferred to family members and to create generational wealth opportunities. So we want to keep those 46 into a different bucket so that we can identify which type of homeownership program would make the most sense for those. We met with our resident advisory board and we vetted all of these ideas with them. It was a great meeting and I was very excited to see our participation improve from the last couple of years. So it's actually gone up in participation, which is wonderful. And they were very supportive of the plan. This is a requirement for HUD that we do vet these through our actual residents and provide their comments. So one of their recommended changes to our plan is that we add into our existing proposal a veterans preference. And so we're bringing that forth today as an opportunity. So when we talk about preferences, we think about how desirable affordable homeownership truly is for our community and how impactful an affordable homeownership opportunity could be. And in recognizing that, we think that developing some form of preference so we can ensure it goes to the people that we intend to serve, and we submit these plans to HUD to show them that we have vetted this well, and we've really thought this through. So our preferences that we came up for would be, 1, a Salem Housing Authority preference. So what this means is that if one of our current residents is living in one of these homes and can obtain financing on their own or through help of one of our self-sufficiency programs, we would like to offer them the first right to purchase the home. And that's just an anti-displacement strategy. And so that would be preference number 1. Preference number 2, we've really developed in community with community business education leaders, or CBEL. And we find that we really like their mission of being able to create sufficient self-sufficiency paths and opportunities in the communities they serve. So folks that are looking to purchase a home don't have to purchase it all the way across town. They can purchase it in the neighborhood, receive the preference that they live in existing, and don't have to lose their existing support network. So we would like to offer the second preference to the CBEL organization. And right now we've identified there are 11 homes that meet that preference requirement. And I know that CBEL is growing, so in the event it grows as we develop this program, those houses would also move with them with this preference. The third preference is a neighborhood preference. And when I get to the next slide, this will show where it's very impactful, is that if it's not a CBEL house, then in the neighborhood in which they live, which we've identified through neighborhood associations, they would qualify because they live in that neighborhood already. And so that would be the third preference. We've spoken to Habitat for Humanity to ensure that they would basically take on the same preferences that were adopted today, and they have agreed to do so. So number 5 that you see here, this would incorporate the new feedback, which would be to incorporate a veteran's preference by program when deemed possible or feasible. And why I say deemed possible or feasible is sometimes programs don't work together, or potentially there's a different route for veterans to take, and we don't want to either duplicate or have unintended consequence with programs basically working against each other. So when possible or feasible is what we recommended. So moving into the neighborhoods of what that might look like, we have outlined all the different neighborhoods that are in the city of Salem and where these houses are located. So you can see, for example, in East Lancaster, there's 11. In Fayrite, there's 7, and so on. And then we also have some that actually have no neighborhood associations, which is interesting and appear to be noted in the county, and 4 within the city of Kaiser. All right. So what we're asking tonight is urging your adoption of this plan with or without the amendments, as we have a submission deadline to HUD, which actually happens later this week. And I'm available for comments. And again, would love to really thank all of the community members that provided written testimony, as well as those that have come tonight, because it really does make an impact, and we appreciate you all.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Does any commissioners have a question for Jessica about this? Dr. Brown, go right ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm looking at the screen. I think Commissioner Tigan is before me.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You come up. You came up number one on my side.
I think you're first, Dr. Brown. Go ahead, Commissioner Brown.
Okay. So Jessica, thank you so much for the presentation. I appreciate it. So my first question is, those preferences, there were 4 different preferences, actually 5 with the veterans included. Is there room for more, or are we going to just move forward with just these 5?
Thank you for your question. The council or the commission has the opportunity to make whatever decision they feel is possible, they'd like to make. However, we do have a submission deadline to HUD, so we would just hope for that decision to be made tonight.
Got it. And one final follow-up question. So with those 4 preferences, I guess my question is, how do you build some type of collaboration with another entity that possibly would like to be a preference? How do you go about doing that? And the reason I'm asking is because if veterans is going to be considered, and that's a part of it, my mind goes to like the Courtney place. If it's not on this list, is there room to add another community organization to be a part of it?
We still have not formalized the process for the 46 remaining homes. Our main intent is to get the 33 transitioned and approved by HUD to transition to Habitat for Humanity at a reduced cost. I think over time, we have a lot of opportunity to really select the program that works the best for the 46 remaining units. And what we had heard when we visited CBEL for the very first time was that that would be their desire. We are very open to partnership. We have heard interest in Dep Northwest wanting to partner with some of the 46 units that would still be up for grabs. I think the intent is really for us to be methodical in the way that we release those homes. And let me explain why. If we identify that we have a Salem Housing Authority family that could potentially acquire financing in the next couple years, we'll say, we want to wrap around those folks. We want to get with them to get them enrolled in the FSS program and to see if we can basically buy time for them to develop an escrow that will help them to purchase the home in which they're staying in now. That is our primary objective, our own clients. And so in developing a preference that expands beyond that, we haven't really investigated that, but it's not to say that it couldn't happen. This is really, really for us to submit the plan to HUD to say, we want to designate Habitat for Humanity to have these 33 homes and call that out specifically because they don't usually allow for us to sell at lower than market rate. And we find the only way for us to turn these into affordable homeownership opportunities is if we do that. Because if they partner with us and they purchase them at market rate, I don't see a way for them to sell them at a more discounted rate. And so pairing that, our strategy would be to pair that with an ask of the legislature as well for the remaining 46 homes too, so that some folks could obtain deposit assistance and to be able to access whatever programs that are being offered from certain banking institutions. And Umpqua Bank is our designated partner that we hope can provide also silent second as well as down payment assistance. And they have built-in preferences as well.
So thank you very much. I'm not going to ask more questions because my colleagues have questions. Are you comfortable if I can give you a call tomorrow? Maybe we can talk more about that. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Tigan, go right ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Blakely. Appreciate it. Can you go over again? I think I was just a little slow on the uptake at the start. What's the motivation for selling or disposing these 79 properties and even those 2 apartment buildings beforehand? Is someone at HUD saying you need to do that, or you're supposed to do a periodic review? Like, what's the motivation that sort of got this underway? I'm just not clear about that.
Very great questions. Yes, HUD is putting a lot of pressure on housing authorities to reposition their public housing assets. And that does come from knowing that eventually the funding will not be able to meet the expectations of these projects for their capital needs long term. We've seen the capital funding get less and less and less over time. And when you have a 50-year-old building, it makes it extremely difficult to make a rehabilitation pencil more than a new development. And so in the case of Shelton Village and Glen Creek, that's why I showed you the vehicles when they were built, because they're 50-year-old buildings that have not seen a full recapitalization or a full rehabilitation, and therefore HUD feels that they're obsolescent. So in those two multifamily buildings, they won't allow for us to invest federal funds into capital upgrades because they don't feel it's the right bang for their buck. And so they're pressuring us to move away from that. The scattered site model, there's been a pressure on that particular portfolio across the nation. And they actually don't even ask questions about disposing of scattered sites because they know it's very cost prohibitive for us to assign, say one maintenance and one property management coordinator to 79 homes that are scattered all around the city. I mean, there's just no way for us to get our eyes on them every day. And so they understand that struggle for us management wise, especially because we self-manage in property management. And that's why they've said, yes, we see operating those single family homes long-term is not going to be a success. And we want you to dispose of those assets first.
Thank you very much for the clarity there. I'm going to defer to Mr. Matthews and maybe come back with another question, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Tigan. Just raise your hand again if you have another one. So Commissioner Matthews, do you have a question?
Yeah, I had two quick questions. And so one of them was kind of in relation to just selling these properties to HUD. So is the expectation, or will we have something in contract with HUD, or not HUD, Habitat for Humanity, that they'll sell to the, I guess, participant or whoever the actual occupant's going to be in the long run, that they'll sell at either the same price that we sold it to them or a lesser price?
Thank you for the question. Habitat for Humanity, I would have to let them speak on that specifically, on how they sell and how their program works. But they serve folks up to an 80% area median income. And so they actually serve a lower income population than what we're even proposing for the overall bucket of 79. So we're saying up to 120% AMI. And at this moment, their program serves up to 80% AMI. So I think just if you look at the targeted incomes between those two, they would be serving that low income population. And I'm not sure what the purchase price would be because sometimes they have donated materials and donated time. And so there may not be, a cost necessarily, but it would fit those income brackets. And so that's how we would make that happen. And we would be doing, if this is approved, a memorandum of understanding with the Habitat for Humanity to move forward.
Okay. My second question is back to Shelton Village. So when it goes up for sale, will it be marketed on the open market or at fair market value, or are we going to offer it to community partners and subsidized housing providers first for their purchase?
That's a great question. So Shelton Village will be sold at fair market value.
Okay. Yeah.
Anything else, Commissioner Matthews?
Nope, that was it. Thank you very much.
Excellent questions. All right, Commissioner Vang, you have questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Nishioka. Ms. Blakely, I appreciate the presentation. I missed the portion of your presentation about the selection of the 33 homes to be sold to Habitat. What were the criteria identified as to why these particular properties would be good candidates to be sold?
Excellent question. So we looked at our portfolio as a whole, and we determined which houses we could and could not keep within our portfolio or made sense to operate long-term versus short-term. So there are some that are maybe way out in certain areas of town, or maybe they're located in a less than desirable location for us to hold on to long-term, or maybe they're on a very large lot with a very small home, and they'd already indicated that those would be ideal candidates for them to demolish and rebuild into middle housing. And so with that in mind, myself and my team went through one by one and identified which house would either be a Habitat for Humanity house or one that would be that we would want to retain, and really think through which programs and talk through are there families that could maintain in them, and what would our strategies be to dispose of them. The process of disposing one house with HUD can take up to 6 months, I think, once we get it really thought through that we're going to put it out in the listing. And so it's very time prohibitive, and there's only myself working on this and a couple other staff working on this program. And so we really wanted to take the high dollar managing, the highest financial impact of the agency, and put those in the bucket to Habitat for Humanity. They vetted them, they agreed, they thought those would be good candidates, and then the other 46 remained basically in our bucket long term to think through new development partners, anything we hadn't thought of yet, or what would SHA be doing, because we may be the ones to provide the silent second on some of these homes to make sure that they get into the right hands.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, again, great questions, everyone. Now, Commissioner Varney, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Blakely, for an excellent presentation. Seeing the pictures and everything and the explanation, I'm very supportive of the plan. I mean, we need affordable home ownership programs. I mean, getting families into their own homes. I'm very excited about this. One of my concerns is I'm thinking about high interest rates and challenges with new home owners or ownership. There are a lot of challenges to it. So I guess my question is, how do we ensure even for a set time possibly, that the home will remain part of a home ownership program and available and affordable, rather than it just being purchased and then becoming another rental?
That's an excellent question. So one of the strategies that we have thought through is a deed restriction, and that is to ensure that it stays affordable long term. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that one individual has to keep it. And what I mean by that is our mission is to also create generational wealth building opportunities. And so one thing we were thinking about, and this kind of came up through our conversations with CBEL, is that we would like for these homes to be passed down to generations. And so if we write in the deed restriction that it could be passed down to a verified family member, we'd have to create how that would work. I think we would look to our banking partners to identify how we would do that, and work with our real estate attorneys on how to make sure the deed restrictions follow the intent of the housing authority. But essentially, that in order for the silent second mortgage to remain forgivable, and to remain forgivable through those 30 years, they would have to meet that requirement. And the deed restriction would remain on property until that requirement was satisfied. And in the event, let's say they had no family member to pass it on to, and it's been 10 years, and they just want to sell it on the open market, okay, they can do that too. However, that silent second mortgage, whatever's remaining, would then become due and payable to the housing authority. So we can take that money back in, or potentially we've thought about, if they go into default, we would like to maybe receive that house back. And so those are attorney questions that we have yet to vet. But that is our intent, is that either the property or the money come back to the housing authority so that we can repurpose that and put it back out to the community.
Okay, thank you. That's very reassuring. Appreciate the thought into it.
Great. Again, great questions. All right, Commissioner Brown, your turn again.
Thanks, Commissioner Nishioka. My question is this, and I know there are other commissioners that have not spoken, and so I want to pause and not ask a question until another commissioner has spoken, or I can go ahead and ask the question now. I don't want to use up all of the airtime.
Go ahead. You're up. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay. So, and I appreciate hearing you say this, Ms. Blakely, about the generational wealth, because this is the first time I've heard it. Maybe you did share that before and I wasn't listening, but I'm definitely leaning into that now. again, I'm simply trying to track how you will manage to know that this house is being passed down to a family member. I mean, like, how do you track that in your system?
These are all great questions. We use deed restrictions and very smart attorneys.
You know, I am thoroughly impressed. And so please know I will be calling you and emailing you tomorrow, because I definitely want to come by and learn some more, because I enjoy hearing what your team does, especially, you know, from the past couple of years. But this is the first time that I've heard this. And so thank you for that presentation, and just being mindful that that having a property today, it may not feel like it's generational wealth, especially for families of color or families that speak multiple different languages. But just the fact that you are adding that component to this conversation, and it's a part of the vision for the City of Salem, that is just phenomenal. So thank you to you and your team for really bringing that and raising it to the forefront. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you again. And now Commissioner Matthews, please go ahead.
Sorry, me again. So question is so you mentioned the silent second. And so is that silent second intended to just be the amount of the down payment? So like for an FHA, the 3.5%, or is it intended to kind of be a gap? So like if their debt to income ratio didn't allow them from the first lender to get the full amount that they needed for the house, that would actually fill the gap on the whatever the remainder was.
That is a wonderful question, and it's the second. And so what we feel is, what we don't want to do is somebody who would be purchasing this home in lieu of staying on the program and receiving a voucher would be giving up their assistance forever, right? Or maybe long enough to get back on a waiting list. We don't want that to happen. So the intent would be that we would see what they could finance, still keeping their payment reasonable, because we feel like right now affordable homeownership is affordable housing, because they're going to be able to guarantee at least a certain-ish payment for 30 years. And so let's say they're on a fixed income. They can only get a fixed payment. It's going to be really difficult for them to receive financing. Right now, there are programs out there that do assist with down payment, and so up to $125,000, but our silent second would be to fill the full gap. So if they could only finance $100,000, we would be silent seconding $300,000. And so there's no other program that can fill a gap that big. And that's why we want to keep those 46 into our bucket, because we're going to have that flexibility to offer those to folks with fixed income. In partnership with Umpqua Bank, they've been successful at putting people that are at 30% AMI level into homeownership opportunities. How in the world do they do that? I don't know, but they're our banking partner, and we're about to figure it out, because it's very important for us to be able to serve all income levels. And also, we don't know, funding uncertainty is out there. We want to see people move into long-term affordability. And although they're moving off our program provides only rental assistance. So if we can get their mortgage to match where their income is right now, then, maybe the property tax increase each year, maybe we'll match that, increase in CPI or whatever it is they're getting for their cost of living increases. And so our hope is that if we're going to trade program for program, we're doing it mindfully in a way they can afford long-term.
Gotcha. I think that sounds great. I think my biggest question I have, though, is, and I'm sure this is clear in here and I've just missed it, or I'm not thinking of it right now, but so where is the money for that second coming from, or for that second loan coming from? Is that all HUD money that's coming through?
It's just really us providing a note on the property, basically. And so we're not exchanging any money necessarily. We're basically providing up that second note so that HUD sees the sale at fair market value. And so we're not losing any money or putting any money out, because we're not spending money on that second. But what we're doing is we're also creating long-term revenue opportunities for the Housing Authority in 46 cases, because in the event the program doesn't work out as designed, that money will come back to the Housing Authority, and or the property will come back to the Housing Authority.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
That was an excellent explanation. I was going to add some questions to that. Commissioner Tigan, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hesitate to ask this question because I don't know. It's way out towards the depth of my understanding, but that's what you're here for, Ms. Blakely, so thank you. And I think it has something to do actually with Commissioner Brown's original question about creating a preference system to participate in the program. When I think of like fair housing law, and when I think of federal dollars going towards programs like this, it also seems to me that there needs to be, I don't know, having preference by neighborhood, have like the list of preferences you've kind of listed don't seem to me to like jive with what I know about like preference law, like what you can and can't provide preference for in housing authorities in housing. So I'm just like clearly confused about it, and just would hope you'd give us some description of how you're thinking about it in terms of why those types of preferences are legitimate under housing law, or if housing law applies at all.
Yeah, no, these are great. When we think about the Fair Housing Act, we're talking about not creating preferences based on race or ethnicity or things like that. Neighborhood is just a little bit different, because our intent is not to not include people, but what it is intended to do is include those people that if they stay in their neighborhood where they're at and they move from either unsheltered all the way to home ownership or renting to home ownership, that they keep their stable support family networks with them. And so they don't have to leave their family networks or the things that they've built, their babysitters, the school preference that their children are going to. That's why we targeted those specifically, because we want to see people move with their networks. That's what we heard from CBEL, that's what they're trying to do with their group, is to wrap around these families and to build in those supports so they don't have to leave. So it more of an anti-displacement strategy versus a preference. So we talk about the CBEL homes. Like I said, there's only 11 homes, I believe, 10 or 11 homes that are in CBEL neighborhoods right now. So CBEL would work on how they provide referrals to us, whether that be Habitat for Humanity or that. We're not necessarily going out there and choosing people. They're going to sign up on a list. They're going to receive a preference based on, however that list is run, and we'll receive those referrals and begin working with those families. For neighborhood, it's pretty easy. We can see where they live right now. Where do they rent right now? If they can provide a rental agreement from somewhere they rent in that space right now, or, mail from their parents' house or whatever is going on. I don't know how we'll verify it right now. We'll have to work with our banking partners on that, because they'll be built into the way that things are lent. And so, but that's how we'll verify that information, if that makes sense. And then veterans, if included, we can verify that as well. So preferences are just fine. Referrals are just fine, so long as they don't violate the Fair Housing Act and those specific categories.
And that last statement was really what I was looking for. I guess I'd also kind of note, when you went through your neighborhoods, there's nobody there. There's no properties in Grant. There's no properties. There's one property in Grant, none in Highland, none in Northeast Neighbors, 4 in West Salem, none in Camden. And those are just the ones that stand out to me because I'm the Ward 1 city councilor. So I appreciate seeing the map of the entire city and seeing that those houses are all over the city. And I feel like this is a program worth supporting, and that I'd hope that where you live, neighborhood by neighborhood, isn't the only way to participate in the program.
Yeah, and just to clarify, anyone from the city of Salem or anyone could apply for any of these houses. This is just how they're preferenced in the list. It doesn't mean that they'll be selected, because if they can't obtain financing on their own, it won't matter if they meet the preference. They still have to qualify to basically obtain some form of loan from a bank.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't see any other hands up. So Jessica, I had a couple questions and comments. It sounds like the Resident Advisory Board and the other groups that you worked with really provided some great information for you. And it sounds like it was a more robust conversation and interaction than it had been before. So that's great. I think that speaks to a lot of trust and confidence. And so that's wonderful. I'm wondering, I'm assuming that it does, but can you just explain how these plans align with Salem housing production strategy, making sure that you're fitting with what we're trying to do for the city? That would be my first question.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, affordable homeownership is a brand new space for us. So I would think that there are not a whole lot of affordable homeownership opportunities outside of maybe Dev Northwest and through their community land trust model, or maybe some cottage clusters, as well as through Habitat for Humanity. And so I don't hear about it very often. So I'm making an assumption here, but I would say 79 or more affordable homeownership opportunities is pretty substantial for Salem. Considering we haven't really heard of or seen of many. I know they do exist out there, but I just haven't had exposure to them until now. And it seems Habitat for Humanity and Dev Northwest, who both want to partner, are all seeing this as a very positive step for the city of Salem and housing production in general. And, you know, as we open up these opportunities, the existing residents will receive tenant protection vouchers. So if they're not able to purchase these homes themselves, that's okay. It doesn't take them away from receiving assistance. We actually pay for their relocation. We pay for them, they get a voucher. And that also adds to our total count of vouchers. So it doesn't take away from what we already have. So we could potentially get 80 new vouchers from the city of Salem and open up 80 new affordable homeownership opportunities. So to me, that's 160 of a win.
Great answer. Thank you. And then how will you be measuring the outcomes? And reporting back to us?
That is an awesome question. So if we get all of those houses sold, we will have a substantial amount of money, and we will be looking at building new affordable housing with that money. So that would be what you would see as a result, is a buildup of our reserve funding, which is restricted for affordable housing development. And we would be taking those funds and building a new pipeline.
Wonderful. Any other questions? All right, Commissioner Brown, go ahead.
Thank you. This is going to follow up a little bit from Commissioner Tigan's question, because my ears are definitely peaked, because if we're trying to help folks find a home, find stability, I'm for all of that. I guess I'm getting kind of lost in the weeds. For example, when you mention the topic of generational wealth, I tend to believe that those families who actually need that wealth are going to be some people who are typically already in poverty, right? They're going to be in poverty, and I'm going to add a couple more labels to this group. Not only would they be in poverty, but some of them are going to be people of color. A lot of them are going to be folks that English is not their first language. And so if we're trying to target a certain population to give them generational wealth, how do we do that when there are going to be some families that already have, citizenship issues? Like how does that work hand in hand to say, hey, I'm not a citizen yet, but I'm working on it. Can I still have access to having one of these homes?
That's a great question that I have to work out with our Umpqua banking partner. I'm not exactly sure all of their rules, but it really did encourage me when she explained to me that they do provide homeownership opportunities for folks in that 30% AMI category. And I'm like, how does this work? How is this possible? And these are things we're still learning. But what I think, from what I understand from her is that there are substantial pots of money for these high dollar down payment assistance. And then pairing those with the silent second is how we bridge those gaps. And so I haven't seen it actually work yet. But hearing that it has happened with this actual banking partner that we have now onboarded as our partner, I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. And yes, we would be targeting our residents. We would be targeting the people that we already serve. And so that's something that we're really looking forward to.
Yeah, I appreciate hearing you say that. I know this is something that's a part of Madam City Manager's agenda when we think about, you know, a strategic plan for Salem and those who want to call Salem as their home. One of them is definitely, you know, using an equity lens, you know, knowing how to utilize an equity lens by asking those particular questions like, who's missing from this group? Which group does not have a home? Where do they typically live? I think it's all of great value, and I just appreciate the presentation sharing that, because it gives us something a little bit, you know, more to chew on, but also I'm just excited to where I can repeat some of this information to some of the constituents, especially those in Ward 5, or like Commissioner Tigan said, like the Highland community, there's zero for them. So again, thank you for presenting this tonight. Very much appreciated.
Wonderful, thank you. And now, Commissioner Nordijk, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you so much. Don't have questions. I have comments at this point. I've enjoyed listening to the other questions and staff gamely responding to all of them. They're all great questions. But I'm just wanted to kind of summarize some of the takeaways that I have about this and why I'm excited about this plan. The staff have mentioned multiple times the importance of self-sufficiency, and I hear that being repeated as a theme that I think is really essential for the residents, for them to develop that for their own sake and for the sake of recognizing where can we lift folks out of poverty. So I see real value in that. I also see real value in that this is not we're not the only entity who's interested in making a difference and increasing the amount of affordable housing. I love hearing the fact that we are inviting other stakeholders like Habitat for Humanity to the table, because we cannot solve our housing affordability problem alone. It's just not possible. We don't have the money. We don't have the staff to do it. We can't clone Jessica. So and Jessica does an outstanding job. And so do her teammates. So the fact that we are working with others is a really great way to leverage the limited amount of money and time and talent that we do have. And for some of my newer counselors, I can tell you, there are so many times when the City of Salem has just helped out a little bit, just given a little push here and there, whether it was giving a little bit of money to the Center for Hope and Safety's Hope Plaza, or giving a little bit of money to the Arches Inn, which is a former project turnkey hotel that has now been turned into housing for homeless individuals. There are so many projects where we didn't own the building, but we helped make that building happen and make that change happen. So I'm excited to see that. And then the other thing, which we haven't talked about yet, but I think is really a great point. The plan talks about the West Salem location, the Orchard Heights location that was mentioned in the plan, which is online for anyone watching at home. They mentioned that this West Salem location consists of over 6 acres, but houses only 30 units. And so Salem Housing Authority wants to get HUD approval to demolish this site and replace with higher density development. Again, that's 6 acres. It's a huge amount of land, and they could potentially triple the number of affordable housing units. So there are other goals that can be met here, in addition to self-sufficiency, in addition to not displacing people who have worked so hard to build community ties, in addition to the possibility of generational wealth. And in addition to increasing affordable housing stock, on top of all of those things, we can also increase our urban density in a way that is really smart. And I, for one, think that is another great way that we can revisit our property stock, our portfolio, really around the city. You go and drive around the city and you can see plenty of places where I feel land is being used highly inefficiently. We were designed for an era for cars, and boy, does it show. So when we have opportunities like this, and we have smart people like Jessica and the rest of Shaw looking at how we can repurpose our existing space, that is a huge, huge benefit to everyone because the urban growth boundary is not expanding anytime soon. So we have to make the most out of every acre within the city. Thank you.
Excellent comments. Thank you very much, Commissioner Nordyke. Now, it sounds like Commissioner Wang has additional questions or comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Nishioka. This is more of a comment than a question. I echo Commissioner Nordyke's sentiments about being excited and enthusiastic about these programs that the Housing Authority is exploring and trying to move forward on. And I'm also very excited because programs like these they work. I've seen it work, and it reminds me of back in 2007, 2008. Habitat for Humanity helped a family build generational wealth and enter into home ownership. And this family, their first language was not English. They were of the BIPOC community, and they had a very large family. And so the home ownership that they were able to afford through partnerships with Habitat for Humanity and the city and the community that showed up for them really helped them move forward and create a life and build generational wealth. And that family is actually my family. And I am really excited to see Salem explore these programs, continue to partner with CBEL and expand those partnership to Habitat for Humanity, because in order to make Salem more resilient, more vibrant, part of how we do that is by ensuring that we make affordable housing part of that equation and part of that solution. And so I'm really excited that this Housing Authority is exploring these programs and moving forward with these partnerships and these community partners who do great things. So that was really my comment, and I just wanted to highlight that these programs work and we should continue to support such programs. Thank you.
That's great personal testimony or comments. Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands. We do have two people signed up to provide public testimony. So if we don't have anyone else with questions or comments, I'll go ahead and ask the two people that signed up for public testimony to be prepared. And I just want to state that when I call your name, please turn on your microphone, speak slowly because we have interpreters. So take your time, but the time that you do have is 3 minutes. So you'll state your name and your address or zip code, and then provide your testimony. So the first person is Jerry, and I don't know if I'll say this correctly, Ombre or Ombres. So if you will please provide us your name and address and begin your testimony.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, Jerry Ambrose and Ward 2. So I just want to thank Jessica's testimony and all the wonderful questions from all the council members were the bulk of what my presentation was going to be or what I was going to talk about. And it's amazing to hear personal testaments from Councilor Vang. Thank you for sharing that. It is, we've helped a lot of families over the course since 1991. Over 100 families that we've helped. And it is what Councilor Nordyke is talking about is exactly what we're all trying to find more space in when it comes to leveraging funding. As we all know, funding continues to be cut. And with that, a lot of us nonprofits are constantly seeking some of the same funding sources. And what we're all trying to do now is how do we leverage what each of us can do? What Habitat does, and the reason why we're able to keep our home sustainable is that, as most of you may know, we build with volunteer labor. So volunteer labor is a key component that also reduces our costs and our gifts in kind. So the private business industry constantly help us from construction companies, architects to business owners, grocery stores. It's all aspects, school districts, everyone, right? The Salem Hospital, big partners of ours, that it takes all of them. It takes the foundations, it takes that private foundation money grants, it takes the down payment assistance. I love that City Council is talking about AMIs and down payment assistance, and also IDA accounts, individual development accounts, which Dev Northwest is a leader in, right, in our community. And as I heard Jessica speak about, is that we don't have a lot of homeownership housing providers here in Salem. It is Habitat for Humanity or Dev Northwest. And I love hearing Jessica talk about the Salem Housing Authority kind of entering that space. We constantly look at our model. We look at our density models. We talk to our people and the communities we serve, and we try to build sustainable, affordable housing. As Jessica mentioned, up to 80% of the AMI. The other caveat that was not mentioned is that we also make sure that when a family qualifies for a Habitat mortgage, that when it's sustainable and affordable, no more than 30% of their income for their mortgage payment, right? So that's where all of the subsidies, over 50% of a home to construct and or to rehab, we have to find the subsidies, over 50% of subsidies, to really help a family out. It's closer to the 60 percentile to make our homes affordable for home ownership. So I just wanted to share some of those pieces. I like the preferences, and yes, Jessica, thank you for sharing about the Fair Housing Acts and what preferences are versus the housing laws. And I do see Shiles, she might be able to speak a little bit more to that from the Fair Housing Council of Oregon. But Council Teagan, thank you for those questions. Those are great questions. Those are some of the questions we wrestled with as we devised our program as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. And the other person, and again, I may not pronounce Malia Sprague.
Hi there. Yes, my name is Malia Sprague. I am a lender with Umpqua Bank. I've partnered with Jessica and her team over at Salem Housing Authority on this project. I'm actually a resident of Eugene, but myself and a few other lenders with Umpqua are really passionate about these types of projects. And Umpqua as a whole is actually one of the largest lenders of these types of affordable housing projects in the state. So we offer different types of down payment assistance, partnering with others to make projects like this possible. So, hearing everything that Jessica has laid out to you all this evening has been really encouraging, and bringing that type of option to Salem and the surrounding areas, and hopefully expanding it from there. Because as she said, these are things that are kept within the organization, kept within the city and its residents, and, hopefully being able to just grow this, again, multi-generationally among families across Marion County and surrounding areas. And I will say again, to address some of your questions from the council regarding, communities of color, regarding non-citizens, these are all things that we work with and have partnered with similar organizations across the state to accomplish. So these are things that are all 100% doable. I'm lucky to, work with an organization that pushes really hard to make these things possible across different communities. So very excited to hopefully partner with everyone on this project and start bringing, these affordable options, whether it's through Habitat, through the Salem Housing Authority, and just expanding affordable homeownership in the Salem area.
Ms. Sprague, thank you very much for coming. Great to have you here. All right. Anything else? If not, then I will close the public hearing. And then we now will move on to the motion. Vice Chair Gwynn.
I move that the Housing Authority of City of Salem adopt resolution number 2316 approving the Salem Housing Authority annual PHA plan, capital fund plan, and moving to work supplement to the PHA plan. And moving to work supplement to the PHA plan.
I second.
I think I heard Commissioner Brown on that, so I'll call it for Commissioner Brown. We have moved and seconded. I am now going to make an amended motion, and then we'll get to Commissioner Teichen. I move to amend the proposed 2025-26 6 Public Housing Authority Plan to include a veteran's preference to the scattered sites home dispositions.
Wasn't that number 5 of the plan?
Chair,
We're adding the veterans.
I'm sorry, Chair Nishioka. I apologize for interrupting. There seems to be a little bit of confusion. I've just verified there is an individual by the name of, I believe it's Rick Galpo.
Oh,
That's for the
Galpo?
council meeting.
that's for the council meeting.
I apologize. Forgive me. Sorry for the interruption. I thought it was for this meeting. And I wanted to make sure everyone who has signed up to testify was
Thank you.
testifying. I apologize for the interruption.
No, and while you're with me, I've read the motion and there seems to be a question. Is the motion that I've read to add the veterans preference already in the motion, or we needed to amend it?
Would the city reporter reread the motion that's on the floor, if that's available?
I do not have it. Can the counselor please restate their motion?
Adopt resolution number 2316, approving the Salem Housing Authority Annual PHA Plan, Capital Fund Plan, and moving to work supplement to the PHA plan.
So Chair Nishioka, to answer your question, that would be the plan as it is currently existing in the attachments. To add the veterans preference, which I think is your question, would require an amendment to this motion to add the veterans preference for scattered sites.
All right, then I shall read my amended motion again. I move to amend the proposed 2025-26 Public Housing Authority Plan to include a veteran's preference to the scattered sites home dispositions.
May I clarify, Councilor Nishioka, Chair Nishioka, were you intending to amend the motion to include an amendment to the plan to include the veteran? Thank you.
Yes. Did I hear a second?
For me, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. We have had that moved and seconded, and then I see we have Commissioner Brown.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So the motion is to add veterans as the 5th. And when Ms. Blakely was talking, I thought I heard the possibility of adding even additional preferences, even if it's not in the motion. Did I hear incorrect that there's still room to add more, or not after this week?
Not in this motion, but I will let Ms. Blakely come back to confirm that. There's a timeline that we must meet.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to make sure, because I'm in support of adding the veterans. I'm a little bit concerned if there's another group that we need to consider. I don't want us to miss out on that opportunity as well. So, Ms. Blakely?
No, it's up to the commission's discretion on what is included in the amendment. However, it must be submitted to HUD by the 17th of July.
So I guess my question is, Madam Chair, is there a way that we can amend your motion to where it can include other preferences that go beyond veterans?
That may be a legal question. Or to Jessica, I'm not sure. I just know that the residents, this was based on the public testimony and advisory groups that Jessica worked with to include veterans. That's why it was number 5. And this is why it's needing to be amended in the motion. If there's other groups identified and you can bring those forward, then I think Mr. Weinstein would need to let us know if we could add those.
There were no other comments provided and no other groups were requested outside of the veterans.
So back to you, Jessica, in the sense that what you were explaining to Commissioner Brown is that as you move forward with these projects, there might be others that can come in, and that could be something that would happen later or be brought in later. Am I understanding what you said earlier correctly?
Yeah, so we have every year we submit the annual plan to HUD, which kind of outlines all of our public outreach and all of those things, and that comes around annually. We have to give a 45-day comment period, and we gave a little bit extra in this particular time just to make sure we gave enough time for people to come up with different preferences if they felt like that was what they wanted to provide as input. However, those were not received. So I would have to defer to Mark on whether or not it could be further modified. But we've incorporated all feedback that we've received up until this point.
Yes, to make note, I noticed that all the public notices were published May 2nd, 11th, 24th, 5th, and that the virtual meetings with the Resident Advisory Board have all been in a timeline that was required.
And I appreciate that clarity, Ms. Blakely. I guess if I'm hearing this correct, that even after you submit this to HUD and they approve it, we're still not boxed in to where we can't share something with the commissioners where they can consider an additional preference. That is still an option, even though you've already submitted the information to HUD. Is that part correct?
That is correct for the 46 homes. Yes, for the 33, we would already be moving into the Habitat for Humanity flow.
Got it. Thank you for the clarity. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the question. Commissioner Matthews, please.
Jessica, I think this is probably for you as well, but can you explain to me, so I see the 4 priorities that are there right now, the Shaw resident preference, community business and education leaders preference, neighborhood preference, Habitat and Humanity homes preference, and then obviously there'll be a veteran preference. But I'm not quite clear how the preference system works. So is it like a point system where if you qualify as a neighborhood preference and a CBEL preference, but you don't qualify as a Shaw resident, your points would be higher than a Shaw resident? Or is it a list system where a Shaw resident's going to get first priority, then it's going to move to the next tier if there's not a Shaw resident? And the reason I ask is because now if we're adding veteran would be on the bottom, I'm assuming then, of the Habitat and Humanity homes preference.
Yes, that would be to the second of your point. So the way typical waiting lists work is people will sign up with interest, and then they'll be notified when an opportunity arises. They'll be notified in the order in which the preference are. There's not like, you can't stack preferences, like you can't get 20 points. You can, wherever you hit in the priority is where you'll be contacted. And the part about Habitat for Humanity is they will manage their own lists internally. So I can't speak to what their practices are, but they will put in a memorandum of understanding that they will follow along the intent that we have put forth. And any other community partners we would hope would do the same.
Okay, got it.
Again, thank you. And Councilor Nordyke, please go ahead. And if I missed you earlier, I apologize.
No, it's all right. Thank you so much. I just want to remind folks, we're voting tonight to approve an annual plan. So, I am very aware of when it comes to federal government deadlines, you'd better meet them. And so when I hear staff say this is due in 3 days, we had better give them the authority to move forward. And I'm all in favor of amending it to include veterans and so on. It sounds like there's opportunity for additional preferences for some of the properties we've mentioned, but I would encourage folks that we've sent out the notices, we've spoken with the advisory groups, we've taken the input, but this is our only chance to get this submitted timely. So I would just encourage folks, if you have any other preferences, now be your time to amend. I'm fine with Commissioner Nishioka's amendment. Sounds like a great idea to me. But I just want to help move us along in the interest of time because the clock is definitely ticking. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Yes, Commissioner Teichen, please go ahead.
Yeah, just for my comment, supporting my vote in support of this amendment to the motion. I guess when we approved the Salem housing strategy, the housing production strategy, just a couple months ago, I would say that providing affordable home ownership was not the first thing I would have expected to come before the council. In fact, I thought it was probably going to be one of the last things to come before the council. And one of those things we'd have to tell the state, sorry, we tried, but that didn't end up being a priority of ours. So I really want to commend the staff at the Salem Housing Authority for bringing us an approach that will give us credit under that Salem housing production strategy. We can tell the state that we found a way to, at least for these first 33 houses, working with Habitat for Humanity, turn them into affordable home ownership, and then the next 46 after that. So I think this is a great success and gives us that first box to be checked. Somehow we didn't manage to redo our regulations before we were able to do affordable housing, but this is really great. I'm very excited to support it. So thanks for bringing this to us today, and great work.
Thank you very much. And I'm simply going to state that it is amazing how everybody has come together on this. Salem Housing Authority has worked very hard. They are amazing. I'm so appreciative of Umpqua Bank coming forward, and CBEL and all of the other people that interacted and provided this information. So again, amazing. And I'm really excited the fact that we had such robust conversation for this Salem Housing Authority, and opportunities to be very excited about what this can bring forward to Salem. So I think that at this point, if there's no other comments or questions, what we will now do is call the roll for my amended motion, and it was seconded by Varney. So if I don't see any hands go up, it looks like Mr. Weinstein, you're going to say something? Okay. Great. Then will the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Varney,
Aye.
Commissioner Tigan,
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gwynn,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Vang,
Aye.
Commissioner Nordijk,
Aye.
Chair Nishioka.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you. Now we will move back to the original motion that Commissioner Gwynn made. You probably have that in front of you. Does anyone want to hear it again, or are we okay to just move right on? So that was, the motion was brought by Councilor Gwynn and seconded by Commissioner Gwynn, and now seconded by Commissioner Brown. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Tigan,
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gwynn,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Vang,
Aye.
Commissioner Nordijk,
Aye.
Commissioner Varney,
Aye.
Resident Commissioner Villegas is absent. Chair Nishioka.
Aye. And the motion passes. Wonderful. Thank you. And Jessica, great job. And I know that you've got just a couple days, so that's fantastic. Thank you very much. All right, we don't have any special orders of business. We do not have any information reports. So we are at the point of an adjournment. We're already an hour and 15 minutes in. I'm going to go ahead, unless I hear opposition, I'm going to call a 5-minute break after I adjourn this. Thank you, everyone, and this meeting is adjourned. the City Council meeting for Monday, July 14th, 2025. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Tigan,
Present.
Counselor Nishioka,
Present.
Counselor Matthews,
Here.
Counselor Gwynn,
Here.
Counselor Brown,
Present.
Counselor Vang,
Here.
Counselor Nordike,
Here.
Counselor Varney,
I'm here.
and Mayor Julie Hoy is absent.
Thank you, everyone. I have asked Counselor Gwynn to help facilitate the process. So thank you, Counselor Gwynn, for your help. I really appreciate it. Do we have any additions or deletions?
There are no additions or deletions this evening.
Great, thank you very much. And so we are now to Counselor and City Manager comments. And I believe Krishna Namburi would like to go ahead and make a comment.
Thank you, President Nishioka. Good evening. I just wanted to inform that earlier today, Avelo Airlines informed us that they're exiting all West Coast markets, including Salem. The last flights to and from Salem are scheduled for August 10th. And staff will provide, on July 28th, staff will provide information to City Council with the financial impacts and staffing and other operational details. So there is more to come in a couple of weeks. So based on that discussion on July 28th, we'll determine the appropriate next steps moving forward. So just wanted to inform that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have any comments that they would like to make? All right, then if not, then I'll go right ahead. I think Counselor Vang, go ahead. Your hand was up first.
Thank you, Counselor Nishioka. I'm looking at the agenda and I just wanted to make a couple of comments, particularly with agenda item 3.3C regarding the sidewalk construction. And I am always in favor of making sure that our city is walkable, and especially those in Marion County too. And so in review of the agenda, I had a question pop up that really is about the maintenance of the sidewalk after it's been constructed. And after reaching out to Public Works and their responsiveness, I found out that after the city is tasked with constructing the sidewalk, that the maintenance of the sidewalk is the responsibility of Marion County. And so I just wanted to thank Public Works for providing that information and letting me know so that when my constituents ask me questions, I am able to answer. And then my second comment is in regards to the committee and board appointments in agenda item 3.3D. And I am thankful that there are community members who have decided to step up and serve on these important committees and these important boards, because it's a volunteer position, just like we on City Council are, and it's a show of dedication to wanting to make Salem livable and just a great place to be. And I am amazed at the range of experience from the applicants and those that are being proposed to be appointed. There's extensive nonprofit work. There are experiences from business owners. There are new residents who want to jump right in and make Salem a better place. And then there are longtime residents who want to be engaged and be active in their community. And so I am just, I want to say thank you to those who have decided to step up, and yeah, so thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I believe Councillor Nordijk, you might have had comments that you wanted to make.
I think it was actually me.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Councillor Gwynn, please.
I think it was actually me this time. First, I think it's really, it's unfortunate that tonight our meeting is virtual. I certainly prefer to be in person, and like I can never get the lighting right. So I apologize. I've been sitting here I spent the 5 minutes trying to figure out the lighting and I still haven't. But what I want to take my time to do is tell our constituents, thank you for showing up. We receive lots of emails, and although we don't always have an opportunity, and sometimes we're told we can't respond to all of them, we do read them. And today I was particularly compelled by a letter that was submitted for public comment. And so I'm going to read it. I do want to preface this by saying I am on the board for Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency. We received a letter today from Jimmy Jones. I'm not reading it because I'm on the board. I'm reading it because I was moved by what he said. So if you'll bear with me, it's kind of lengthy. But it says, Dear Mayor Hoy and members of the council, my name is Jimmy Jones. I'm the executive director of Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency in Salem, Oregon, where we serve more than 60,000 Oregonians in poverty each year across 11 counties. I also serve as the Vice President of Legislative Affairs at the Community Action Partnership of Oregon, and have the honor of helping shape housing and homeless policy across the state as a member of various task force work groups and commissions. Previously, I've been the Vice Chair of Oregon Task Force on Homelessness and Racial Disparities, Chair of the Joint Task Force on Hospital Discharge, and Committee Chair of the Governor's Statewide Shelter Workshop. I currently serve on the Housing Subcommittee of Governor's Racial Justice Council, which advocates for progressive policy reform on behalf of vulnerable populations and communities of color across Oregon. As a community action agency, part of our obligation is to inform public policy makers of the consequences of their public policy decisions and advocate for the needs of low-income families in our community. Over the past several months, concerns have been expressed to this government about who is welcome in our community and who is not. I am disappointed that the council has not taken the opportunity to clarify to the public that everyone, rich or poor, housed or homeless, Black, white, or brown, is welcome not only in downtown, but throughout all of Salem. Over the past year, there has been significant pressure to push homeless services and residents out of the downtown area. People living in poverty, regardless of how severe the poverty is, are ultimately residents of Oregon and American citizens. They have the same rights to life, liberty, and justice as the rest of us. This conversation is fundamentally about who matters, whose lives are valuable, deserving of human dignity and compassion, and who is not. Our agency's vision statement, adopted a decade ago, states all people are respected for their infinite worth and supported to envision and reach a positive future. Essentially, we believe in the limitless potential and inherent value of every individual, regardless of poverty, race, or creed. In November 1961, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whom Salem recently honored by renaming the Salem Parkway as MLK Parkway in 2022, spoke at Portland State, where he said, "If democracy is to live, segregation must die. Segregation is a cancer in the body of democracy that must be removed if the health of the nation is to survive. We must learn to live together as brothers," he said, "or we will surely perish as fools." Many vulnerable populations living among the homeless are disproportionately Black, brown, Native, and disabled. They are the very old and the very young. Many are profoundly sick, and driving them out in the name of economic necessity is not only profoundly unjust, but also unnecessary. We want the city of Salem to thrive economically. We want the recently announced development projects in downtown Salem to move forward. We support expanding the city of Salem police budget so that everyone, rich and poor, can be safe in the downtown. However, believing that justice and dignity for the poor must come at the expense of peace and prosperity, or that prosperity is only possible if the poor are driven out, is a fiction that cannot withstand scrutiny, nor the demands of logic, reason, and righteousness. I am so sorry this is so long. I didn't write it. I will say in 2.5 years, I've not said that much. So please bear with me as I continue. We operate a homeless day center at 615 Commercial Street and have since 2017. This facility was designed to be a low barrier walk-up facility for folks who cannot receive services elsewhere. That operation is part of a broader partnership with the City of Salem that dates back decades, which includes our support for Salem Housing Authority operations, at Uquina Hall, Redwoods, and Sequoia Crossing, in addition to emergency warming and cooling. We serve an average of 145 unique homeless persons each day at that location. In June alone, there were 3,056 duplicated visits as people in need seek showers, laundry, and access to mail, meals, and programs. In June alone, we provided 8,762 basic and supportive services. In June alone, we served 7,234 meals. These numbers are simply fractions of the overall impact. In the last fiscal year, for example, our 5 adult shelters and 2 youth shelters served 610 people in 582 households with 165,822 service engagements. The day center activity in downtown is the most vital link in the chain from unsheltered life to housing. It also keeps people alive in extreme weather. Just yesterday, as temperatures soared into the high 90s, we assisted 150 unique clients at that location with 177 meals, 3 clothing vouchers, 9 loads of laundry, 5 hygiene kits, and 4 pet food vouchers and 12 showers. We also provided 48 gallons of water in jugs, in addition to 82 bottles of water, 15 gallons of Gatorade, and 12 pairs of dog shoes to save the paws from the heat. But for our work, where would Salem residents go? Can they access bathrooms in businesses in downtown? Who will let them launder their clothes or provide them with a mailbox to receive documents and medicines? Who will keep them warm and dry in the winter and cool in the summer? Who will feed them? All of the livability matters that concern the business community the most would be categorically and exponentially worse by order of magnitude, but for the services we provide in that location. Salem is a typical medium-sized city in America, especially considering West Coast property values and homelessness. What is happening here is happening almost everywhere in the West. The solutions proposed this summer are not new, nor are they immune to the legacy of failure those methods have produced in the past, both in Oregon and across America. Those efforts have not succeeded in grants past, nor will they in Salem. Our emotional response in Salem is generally driven by fear of what a small number of people in deep poverty are doing to the rest of us. That fear might lead us to ineffective or overly harsh solutions, or both, where the cure is worse than the disease. Do we really want broken windows policing in downtown? Do we want high aggressive Kansas City model of targeted enforcement that has troubling links to racial profiling and discrimination? There's a clear connection between the two major concerns expressed by the public at Salem City Council meetings this year. Some fear that their local government has aligned itself with federal immigration officials, either in name or spirit, while others worry about the exclusion of the homeless from downtown. These fears are linked by a common thread: concern for human dignity, justice, and equal treatment under the law. Our biggest worry, however, should be our fear of each other. It is not It is not downtown crime that drives fear, but our lack of civility towards one another. That is the real issue. Even if we have enough money to have one police officer for every person in downtown, residents would only feel safe when they feel connected to the shared goals and values of the community at large. Right now, they do not. None of us find comfort in witnessing the poverty of others. That discomfort makes us examine what causes the homeless condition and leads us to the idea that someone must be to blame. It is much easier to blame the poor, the disabled, the marginalized, the excluded, and the homeless for their suffering. We assume they did something wrong to end up in poverty and failed to do something else to escape it. In either case, the blame falls on the victim. The rest of us just witnesses. But if we step back and realize that most homeless people are homeless simply because of bad luck, bad timing, or forces beyond their control, that understanding changes everything. It shifts the blame from the poor to the system we all live in, and from them to us. Knowing that it is our problem, not just theirs, means we all share the responsibility of solving homelessness and we are compelled to act. My advice, for what it is worth, is for the council to pause and look with great seriousness at the choices in front of you in the year ahead. I hope we can also turn down the temperature on these public fights and find some common ground to move forward with common sense policy, informed by data and reason, not driven by fear. As community members, we all share the responsibility for the impact of our words on our community. Up and down the West Coast and in Salem, the homeless have been the target of hate crimes. Between 1999 and 2022, the National Coalition for Homelessness documented nearly 2,000 violent incidents that targeted homeless Americans just for being homeless. There were at least 588 deaths in those assaults. We have seen that kind of violence here in Salem. In 2023, Russell, and I don't know how to say his last name, Russell, a 64-year-old homeless Salem resident, was beaten to death on Sunnyview Road. Allowing this conversation to boil over runs the risk of inflaming the public and producing more violence against our vulnerable populations. To make progress, we have to believe that everyone counts, that every life has infinite worth to our community. The homeless are not burdens nor villains, but part of a rich tapestry of Oregon struggling with an economic tragedy that we can correct. They are, in the final analysis, our brothers and sisters, both Oregonians and Americans. We must learn to live together in a way that serves us all, or as Dr. King said, we will certainly perish as fools. Respectfully, Jimmy Jones. Thank you for accommodating me. I know I was way beyond time.
Councillor Gwen, very nice. I really appreciate that you read that. I believe I read it. It looks like everyone else has too, but to make that statement in our meeting is very important. Not always do others get to see the testimony that is sent to us. So I sincerely appreciate you taking the time. And I know that it's never easy to read something that long. So thank you very much. And I believe your fellow counselors are also very appreciative of you doing that. Counselor Nordyke, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'd like to second pretty much everything that Jimmy Jones said. That's a short letter for him, by the way. I too have served on the board for Community Action. I do not currently serve on that board, but I was on there long enough to know that they are one of our most important partners to reducing poverty in ways that are data informed and compassionate. So what I want to do is just kind of piggyback on what Councillor Gwen has said by recognizing, really amplifying the signal for that really tremendous piece of testimony. We received a great deal more testimony that really spoke to the need for compassion response to our persons who are sleeping on the streets and in some cases dying on the streets. I recognize the names of a lot of heavy hitters in homeless advocacy among our pieces of testimony. We heard from Lindsay Bigelow, we heard from Laura Crowfoot, we heard from Pam Watson. I know all these individuals. I've done a tiny fraction of the work with homeless population that they do on the regular, and there are many others. And some of the takeaways that I have from their testimony, again, overcoming the fear that folks have of persons experiencing homelessness is a huge one. And again, that's one of the reasons why I second what Jimmy said in his letter. I want to highlight the fact that many of these folks strongly believe that we need more mental health professionals as first responders, that we continue to send police officers and firefighters to the wrong calls. It's not that these people don't need a response, but having a sworn police officer or a firefighter, we're sending the wrong professional to address the root challenge that these individuals are facing. Our downtown fire station, Station 1, we have fire stations across the city, but the one downtown, over a third of their calls are specifically for responding to persons who are struggling with mental health and or homelessness, a third of their calls. And I know that our firefighters, our EMTs, our new fleet of EMTs and paramedics we just sworn in, they're going to do the very best that they can with the training they have. But at the end of the day, it still feels a little bit like sending an electrician to do a plumber's job. So I still feel strongly, and I'm so excited for upcoming work session. I'm going to bring it back yet again. I have told this council before, and I will tell this council again. We need a civilian-based crisis response team, one that is staffed with a mental health professional and a medical professional, because there are a spectrum of individuals who are not getting the right level of service. Some are not getting a response at all, because being homeless isn't a crime. Being addicted isn't a crime. Being mentally ill is not a crime. So why are we sending police officers to many of these calls? You know, our officers are trained in de-escalation. They're trained on when and where and how to approach folks. But at the end of the day, those aren't the right professionals to send to a huge chunk of the population that is discussed in the testimony we received. And tragically, as you saw in the testimony, fellow counselors, we have a number of people who have died while living on the streets. We will never know their full names or perhaps even their first name. Some of the individuals are merely identified by their first name. We may know the first name of them and their dog, but those names aren't read by council. They're not acknowledged. You're not going to find most of them in the evening news. They go unmentioned and othered the entire time. And we will never know for sure how many of these lives could have been saved had we had this sort of crisis response team up and running. And I know that Marion County finally has one up and coming. And when we talk at our work session, I will share an example of how our system is still not working as it is intended, and how just through one incident through my place of work, I observed several trained professionals respond to a call, and none of them were able to appropriately address the concern raised because we were sending the wrong type of professional to the call. So I will reserve the remainder of my time. I've talked long enough. I always welcome the discussion. I think our work session on July 21 is really important. My final pitch, you know, to people watching at home, if you believe that the time is come for us to address the full spectrum of public safety services, not just police, not just medical and fire, but also having a civilian-based unit to respond to people who are struggling with homelessness, make yourself heard, because this will be a great opportunity for council to really dig their teeth into this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nord. I appreciate again your perspectives and your voice. Anyone else have any comments they'd like to make before we move on? Then I'll take the opportunity to make a couple comments. I want to take a moment to recognize that National Disability Independence Day, observed on July 26. This day marks the anniversary of signing the Americans with Disabilities Act in 1990. This historic law affirmed the rights, dignity, and inclusion of people with disabilities nationwide. The individual that had reached out to me had hoped that we could do a proclamation, and unfortunately proclamations require a bit of time. So I know that Courtney Knox Bush has made note of this, and hopefully next year we'll be able to have an official proclamation on this matter. So I will have to say I was a little surprised. 1990, I mean, yes, that was a while ago, but not that long ago, that we were recognizing people with disabilities. So again, it's an important note to make of that signing. I also would like to take a moment to say thank you to the Boards and Commissions Committee. I get to serve as alternate, so I attended their most recent meetings, which we have on the consent agenda, their selections. I want to say that they did an excellent job reviewing all of the applications and went through the process of selecting the people that were the best fit. And as Councillor Vang had said earlier, we do want to give a shout out to all of the people that sign up and apply to be on our boards and commissions that are, again, all volunteer. They have to do an incredible amount of work, much of which we don't always see. We may get information on their end result, but not fully aware of all the time and work that they put into it as well. So thank you to all of them. And I support all of the appointments that the committee brought forward. And then I want to also say, this is going to get back to Mid-Willamette Valley Action Agency. They had the reopening of their re-entry program last week, and myself, and I also saw Councillor Brown and Councillor Nordike attending the reopening event. It was very nice. There was so many partners that were there that help facilitate people that are trying to find their way, and you know, education programs, helping find housing, and it so again warms your heart that there's so many people willing to help others that need the help and are finally getting what they are hoping to achieve their life's goals. So those were my comments. Thank you all for listening. Oh, Councillor Vang, go right ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Nishioka. So this next comment is a little bit more personal, and it is referencing back to our June 23rd City Council meeting. When I was sworn in, I pledged that I would uphold our shared values of honesty and caring for our community. I believe that it is only fair to share with my constituents and with you all where I stand when it comes to what Avelo is doing. To those who came last meeting wanting to see Salem's airport grow, that is a continuing conversation, and I thank you guys for coming and sharing those comments. To those who came to speak up and speak for our communities affected by and suddenly finding themselves living in fear because of what Avelo is doing, thank you. I share your frustration and your anger. As a child of refugee parents, what Avelo is doing hits close to home. When we other our communities, especially those who are not the dominant culture, we are less vibrant and less resilient. As a sanctuary city, as your elected councillor, I take seriously my role in upholding and abiding by the spirit and the letter of our sanctuary laws. I, the City Council, and the City of Salem cannot do this ourselves, though. We need you, those who are frustrated and angry, to channel that energy to all levels of government, all the way to the very top, and continue driving the conversation to where the solution is centered on facts. It continues to care for our community and upholds human dignity. Those are the comments I wanted to make, and so I thank you all for letting me share those tonight.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vang. All right, I don't see any other hands, so we will move forward. We do not have any proclamations this evening. We do not have any presentations. We do not have any public comment on any agenda items. We will have public comment on non-agenda items. And so we are now to the consent calendar. So Councillor Gwynn.
I move approval of the consent calendar with the exception of item 3.3A and 3.3B, which would be moved to special orders of business.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Consent calendar. So Councillor Gwynn, to your motion.
So our revised consent calendar consists of 3.1A, June 23rd draft city council minutes, 3.3C, which is authorize the city manager to execute intergovernment agreement PW-6627-25 between the city of Salem and Marion County for additional sidewalk improvements along the east side of 49th Avenue Southeast. 3.3D, approve the recommendations for appointments and reappointments of the city's budget committee, the library advisory board, and the cultural and tourism promotion advisory board. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you. So it's been moved by, the consent calendar has been moved by Councillor Gwynn, seconded by Councillor Nordijk. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councillor Matthews.
Aye.
Councillor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councillor Brown.
Aye.
Councillor Bain.
Aye.
Councillor Nordijk.
Aye.
Councillor Varney.
Aye.
Councillor Tigan.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy is absent. Councillor Nishioka.
Aye. The motion passes. So we are now to public hearing. So let me get my little script. So will the recorder please make the announcement, and then I'll ask for any conflicts.
The Salem City Council will now conduct a public hearing concerning the 2025 to 2029 ConPlan, 2025 Annual Action Plan, Prior Year Annual Action Plan amendments, and analysis of impediments to fair housing. The hearing will begin with a staff presentation followed by other interested persons. Individuals testifying must provide their name and address or ward number. Individuals are limited to 3 minutes of testimony.
Are there any counselors that have any conflicts with this public hearing? I don't see any hands. All right, thank you very much. And I believe that it's Michael Brown that will be doing the presentation. Is that correct?
Ma'am. Good evening, Council. Michael Brown. Work for community planning and development as a manager of housing production programs and incentives, and I also supervise the federal program staff that manage the HUD grants the city receives. And at the moment, I am the federal program staff that the HUD grants the city receives. So tonight's public hearing is for the eventual adoption of the 2025 through 2029 ConPlan. And let me pull up the presentation here. The city has two grants from the United States Housing and Urban Development Department. One's a community development block grant. The other is a home partnership grant. The way this works essentially is that once Congress appropriates it or does an annual appropriation, the city gets a portion of that appropriation through an entitlement formula. And this consolidated plan is a necessary requirement that the city consider and adopt eventually.
Michael,
for us to
share your screen. It's not happening.
Oh, it's not? Does that help?
Sorry, not yet.
I'm sorry?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Did that get it?
It has not.
And now?
Sorry, we don't see it yet. We'll all just take a deep breath. It's okay.
Michael, I'm happy to run the PowerPoint if that would be helpful.
That would be.
Happy to do that.
Thanks.
It's a beautiful PowerPoint also.
That's due to
Stepping in.
the efforts of Nicole Miller. Okay.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
So back on that first slide, I was I was discoursing on the the HUD gives us two separate grants, one for community development block grants, the other for home investment partnership, and it's a formula grant once Congress appropriates funds. So to receive these grants, the city is obligated to pass a consolidated plan, which is a 5-year strategic plan. It consists of several sections. This is a highly prescribed formula by HUD that we have to fill out all of these sections. And the idea is that our housing and homeless needs assessment, housing market analysis, and analysis of impediments to fair housing choice determines what projects that we fund. Next slide, please. The central component of a consolidated plan are the 5 annual action plans that will go along with it. And tonight we'll talk about year 1 annual action plan in some more detail. But essentially the annual action plan is what implements those consolidated plan goals, and it creates the project funding. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, it depends on an annual congressional appropriation. Next slide, please. So HUD's template, as we just kind of went through there, starts out with the needs analysis. You create goals, then projects, and then activities. And I just want to take a moment here to talk for a moment about the difference between goals, projects, and activities in a HUD perspective. Typically, when the city talks about a project, it's what HUD would call an activity. And when we talk about a program, then it would fall into what HUD would call either a project or a goal. So one of the things that I will talk to you about later on is that we're contemplating budgeting our on the annual action plan level at the goal and project level rather than the activity level to provide a little more flexibility in the future. Next slide, please. So here's an example of some past CDBG activities. On the left there is the Garden organization, and the city has used CDBG funds in the past to purchase recycling balers and do facility upgrades so that they could support low moderate income jobs. On the right, most folks are very familiar with the Yaquina Hall. The city put several hundreds of thousands of dollars into the Yaquina Hall rehab to go along with the other Shaw funding. Next slide, please. Here are 2 examples of home activities. What we would call projects. The Evergreen Apartments at the old church on Cottage Street. Dev Northwest was the subrecipient there, and they utilized home funding along with other funds that they had. And then on the right, once again, another great Shaw project, Sequoia Crossings, which received a little over $2 million in home ARP funding. So as the in the development of the consolidated plan, we reached out to lots of different providers of services within the community. We also piggybacked, because this was going on contemporaneously with the housing production strategy community outreach. So we piggybacked on many of their findings. And we did a limited amount of our own surveying and interviewing. And these particular needs are not going to be surprising to absolutely anyone. And the size of the box there represents kind of the intensity of the need that we discovered in our research. Housing being the number one topic, as it usually is, and then to a smaller degree, healthcare, and then to an even smaller degree, childcare. Next slide, please. So I wanted to create a slide here to show kind of the difference between the 2020 goals and the 2025 goals. And the short answer is that there's not much difference. All we did was take the support efforts to combat homelessness and expand affordable housing and roll that into one goal. The rest of these remain the same. Next slide, please. There was a question during Ms. Blakely's presentation about connecting to the Salem housing production strategy. And even though these two, even though the consolidated planning effort started out separate from the housing production effort, we quickly realized there was a lot of commonality and a lot of overlap because of the need. And so there was a concerted effort in the latter half and 3/4 of that housing production strategy to kind of try to tie these things together. So these are the things that you see up on your screen right now are all the strategies in the housing production plan where we can use federal funds to directly impact the outcome. Infrastructure funding, you can use CDBG money to pay for infrastructure funding. Housing development in areas of opportunity, support permanent supportive housing. It's what we did with Sequoia Crossings. Support community land trusts. All of these things are things that we can do with the federal funds that are granted to us. Next slide, please. So annually, what do we have to work with? Traditionally, we've gotten about $1.4 million in CDBG grants. We've gotten about $0.7 million in home grants. The $110,000 you see in the middle of the general fund represents the amount of administrative costs to the city that is not covered by either of those grants. CDBG grants allow us to spend up to 20% of the grant on administration. The home grant allows us to spend 10%. So between those two, that we have to pay for, of course, this federal program staff that are working the programs. We have to pay, just like every other cost center in every fund that has an ICAP cost. We have to pay for software, all the things that one would expect for administration. And so typically there isn't enough that the federal government pays for and the general fund has to subsidize. Next slide, please. So for the year one annual action plan, what have we done with this slide here is we've combined both CDBG and home into one discussion for both program year 2025 and all the prior years unspent money, and are proposing these buckets for it. And I'll break these out again a little bit farther on, but this is why we wanted to budget, if you will, at the project and goal level rather than down at the activity level. The main reason for that is because whenever there's a amendment that needs to be made, we have a whole process we have to go through that's prescribed, and as a consequence, it takes quite a bit of time, and we'd like to have some more flexibility. So for instance, if there's a housing rehabilitation that doesn't succeed for whatever reason, and we have leftover money for that project from that project, we'd like to be able to steer it to another type of housing project. Next slide, please. So I said that we would break these down into the two different grants. So here's our CDBG activity level allocations, or what the city would call a project level. And on the left, we have our prior year's unspent money. Some of that has already been previously approved by council for activities or projects. And you can see those listed there. We have 3 new proposals for prior year's unspent money. One of those is to help fill a gap, and it's only a help fill at this point, for Marion Polk Food Shares warehouse acquisition. The other is a roof repair for Center for Hope and Safety. And the third is to set aside funds for a future multi-family rehabilitation of 2 Shaw properties. There on the right, you see what is the program year 2025. There are 3 public services we're recommending to be funded: Community Center for Hope and Safety, Domestic Violence Case Management, Northwest Human Services Host, and St. Francis Shelter Case Management. These are 3 programs we have funded in the past, and they have traditionally been high performers. Staff is also recommending $90,000 for economic development for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for a program they're calling Latin Micro Enterprise. And then finally, under public facilities, Center for Hope and Safety needs additional work for their electrical system in their building, and their parking lot goes underwater when it rains because of bad storm water system. And so they would like to revise all of that so that their facility is more accessible to the public. Also in the program year 25, we want to reserve some money for the same project that we're recommending be funded from prior years unspent. And then finally, the CDBG administration. Next slide, please. Home activity level allocations, again, prior years unspent on the left. These are the ones on the top were previously approved and have not completed yet. The new proposal would be once again to the Shaw multifamily rehab. And I think Ms. Utes or Ms. Blakely are still available, so they'll be able to answer better questions than I could on that. And then finally, in program year 2025, administration supporting Dev Northwest, who's our community housing development organization. We are allowed to spend up to 5% of our entitlement grant on our CHODO just for their capacity building, and then reserving money for that same multifamily rehab. The total gap on the multifamily rehab, as Shaw has expressed it, is about $3 million. Next slide, please. And now we come to the section about the analysis of impediments to fair housing, and I'm going to ask Shyle Reuter from Fair Housing Council, Oregon, to explain what that is in generic terms, and we'll press on. Shyle?
Thank you, Michael. Hi, everyone. My name is Shyle Reuter. I'm the Education Outreach Director at the Fair Housing Council of Oregon. I use she, her, hers pronouns. Fair housing is the right of all people to be free from discrimination in any type of housing transaction, and discrimination under fair housing law means people being treated differently in a housing transaction because of their protected class. However, discrimination can also be disparate impact that is created by zoning and policies by a jurisdiction. I did want to review the protected classes federally, statewide, and then also the additional protections that Salem adds. So federally, we have race, color, religion, national origin, sex, familial status, people living with disabilities. Oregon State goes on to add marital status, goes on to add source of income, meaning housing subsidies, and Oregon also adds sexual orientation and gender identity as well. Salem adds additional protected classes, age over 18, occupation, domestic partnership, as well as housing status. So we're going to review what impediments to fair housing choice in the public and private sector might look like. But first, the analysis of impediments to fair housing involves a comprehensive review of laws, regulations, and also administrative policies, procedures, and practices. It is also an assessment of how these laws affect the location, availability, and also accessibility of housing. It is also an assessment of conditions, both public and private, affecting fair housing choice for all protected classes. And it is also an assessment of the availability of affordable, accessible housing in a range of unit sizes. So some examples of impediments to fair housing choice could be significant neighborhood resistance to new affordable housing developments, particularly multifamily rental developments or perceived dense for sale housing products. It could be zoning ordinances that effectively limit new multifamily or single family developments of affordable housing. It could be a lack of transportation options or job transportation connections. It could be limited English proficiency, so lack of consistent and even fair housing services, outreach, and support to all citizens and program applicants. It could also be lack of knowledge about fair housing requirements, and that's lack of knowledge by landlords, mortgage lenders, home buyers, tenants. Anyone who's touching the housing process, even including jurisdictional bodies, have responsibilities under fair housing. With that, I'm going to pass it back to Michael.
Thank you, Kyle. So as far as next steps, we're in the middle of the public comment period. There's a 30-day public comment period that's required, and we're in the middle of it right now. We will ask council to approve the consolidated plan at the July 28th meeting. I unfortunately can't be here, so I'm hopeful that I can answer all questions that might be necessary, and then it'll allow the person standing in my stead to go unscathed.
Michael, thank you very much. I see Councillor Nordyke is up already for questions, so be ready, Michael.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for being here, and thank you for that presentation. I'm just curious, how competitive are some of these proposals? Center for Open Safety, Northwest Human Services, St. Francis Shelter, I know them all. I've been to all of their facilities. Well, not all of them, but I've been to their flagship facilities. And I know they do an outstanding job, but I'm so happy to hear you characterize them as high performers, because that's certainly been my experience as well. But I'm just wondering, how competitive are the CDBG grants these days? Because we know that there are funding cuts to a lot of great nonprofits. I heard that Center for Open Safety lost some of its federal funding through other mechanisms, just as one of many examples. And I'm just curious, are you seeing a lot of competition for this limit? And it's not even that much money, frankly, when you consider how much case management is, how much it is to recruit, train, and pay benefits and everything else for a single employee. You can chew through $100,000 pretty quickly. So I'm just kind of curious, can you describe a little bit what the application process has been looking like? And are you getting applications from a wide variety of community partners, or is there a list of usual suspects that you see apply for this particular class of funding?
Thank you for the question. Our application process for this program year opened in late October, early November of last year. So we actually solicit applications on the hope that we will eventually be funded. In an ideal world, of course, the federal government would have their budget passed by October 1st, and we would know what our entitlement is, and then we could then just make this announcement and we could go about our business. But in reality, what happens is that we use our historical grant pattern to say, this is what we think we're going to have. And then when the allocation comes about, then if we can cover it all, we can cover it all. And if we can't, then somebody has to be dialed back a little bit. So this last year, we did not have as many people as we did the year before. The year before, we had several folks who were applying for grants in some great ideas that would have been excellent things to do, but the demonstration of the capacity of the potential partner just wasn't there enough to risk putting the money into it. So that would have been for program year 23. I'm sorry, for program year 24. For program year 25, the one that we just that I just described, that we did this last fall, a much reduced number of applicants, and the kind of the usual suspects as you turn to counseling.
Okay. When is the next funding cycle?
Well, ideally, we would open it up again this coming fall for what would be federal program year 26, city fiscal year 27.
Okay. And Councilor Nishioka, I have one more question.
Okay.
It's on this was not covered in your presentation. And please correct me if there's another staff member who'll be covering this, but I saw in the staff report that the city has failed 4 consecutive timeliness tests. And I was wondering if a staff member was going to be speaking to that.
I'll speak to that.
Okay.
I'm kind of the only one here. So yes, CDBG grants have a requirement by HUD that the city is supposed to spend in a timely fashion. Essentially, you can't create huge banks of money. And that ratio is 1.5 to your current year grant. So every May 2nd, HUD runs what's called a timeliness test. And if your unspent grant balances from previous years are above that 1.5, then you've failed the test. The first 3 times you have to do a consult with HUD and explain how you intend to get out of it. And we just on this 4th time, we got a notice from HUD that we had to provide detail by activity type and how long it was delayed and why it was not in the city's power to overcome those delays. So we've made that response, but if HUD determines that the city was able to overcome those delays, then it's entirely possible we could lose up to $413,000 in the program year 2025 grant.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand why. I'm sure where the deadlines are well advertised. They tell you when these are coming. Can you explain in essence, and I see Director Rutherford's come online, can you explain why we failed 4 times?
I can.
Would you like me to step in and respond to this one?
Sure, boss.
Okay, so we initially started to get behind on our CDBG spending when we were committing funds to the Aquina Hall reservation. So many of you were not on council at that time, but for those of you that were, you may recall that there were years of delays where we'd committed funds to that project, but because of a number of different issues tied to completing the transaction with the state, going through the historical process, having to do ground penetrating radar on the site, just a number of different issues that kept snowballing. That continued to push out our CDBG spending. So funding that we thought we would spend years earlier did not get spent. That led us into COVID, when we had a number of projects that we'd committed grant funding to that also were delayed because of the pandemic or just didn't happen. They may have started but didn't complete. So they've had to return money to the city. So we had about a 5-year period where a number of projects were just delayed and delayed again and delayed again, or just didn't come to fruition, and we've had to take the money back. I don't know, Michael, if you please feel free to add anything to that if you'd like.
No, that covered it.
Well, thank you, Director Rutherford. That is helpful. I do recall the delays with Yaquina Hall, and there were a lot of external factors that were impacting our timeliness. There were, I think it was 3 or 4 mayors ago that we started looking. It might have been the Anna Peterson era, I think, when we started looking at Yaquina Hall. So that's helpful. And I do remember from my prior years on council that there were some CDBG funds that were returned because the nonprofit who received them was not able to carry out their intended purpose. So I thank you. I appreciate the explanation. And more importantly, I appreciate the fact that you put it in the staff report. I mean, these things do happen and you're not hiding the ball. And that's the most important thing to me. I like it when the staff is just upfront about when things don't go as planned. And I know the city staff they do that all the time. So I just want to say thank you to Michael and to you, Director. That candor is very much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Councilor Nordyke. Councilor Tigan, I will get right to you, but one of my questions was in regards to the same subject. So just to keep it subject oriented. So I too was recognizing that, and I'm wondering if there has been any specific actions or internal processes that you plan to implement before the 2026 May timeliness test is up. Are there any things that you're working on to try to mitigate what's happened before in the past?
Yes, ma'am. First off, a couple of years ago, we waived the policy we had in place for a while to limit all applications to no more than $300,000. And the reason we did that was because while it was aspirational to spread the wealth as widely as possible, it also created lots of projects that required lots of management and lots of subrecipient technical assistance, and also led to some subrecipients not doing as well as hoped. So we recognized that a couple of years ago that we needed to do that internally. With respect to spending for this coming year, we need to spend about $1.9 million to get us down to our minimum threshold. The plan that we proposed spends about 2.6. So that will easily get us down, if my financial model works, down to like 0.94, maybe 0.97 for our ratio. The two biggest pieces of that are to continue an acquisition project that is adjacent to the last one we just did, that we're in due diligence right now, and also the Marion Polk Food Share gap fill for their purchase of their warehouse. If the due diligence fails on that land purchase, or if it doesn't go through, then we can always shift money because the gap that Marion Polk Food Share faces is much larger than what we've got. We can always shift the money there and move it out the door that way.
Very detailed answer. Thank you very much. Director Rutherford, did you have something to add to that, or okay?
I do
Thank
not.
you.
Oh, thanks.
And thank you, Councilor Tigan, for letting me answer that while it was kind of in play. So go right ahead with your questions.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. And I think they're all kind of on the same same line here. I'm just curious, and I also wanted to say welcome to Ms. Reuter, and thank you for your walkthrough of FHA a little bit more from the housing meeting to this one. I'm curious if there's any motivation on the Michael, on your staff and Director Rutherford to spend even more than the 1.5 to 1 ratio. It sounds like there is. In the thoughts of the uncertainty of this program going forward under the current administration, is that some thought that you're giving to as well?
Yes, well, I've got a spreadsheet that looks at 5 years and tries to plot how we can spend money. With Shaw's request to have a pretty big spend for 2 significant housing developments with 112 total units. We do have, because we only get 1.4 million, we do have to do a little reservation now to cover that for the future. But I did look at that with respect to how that would affect our timeliness, and I don't think it harms it.
I just want to point out in quick response and in support of Councilor Nordike's point, I would say the last time you asked the community for applications for this pool of funding was October.
Yeah.
And a completely different reality and I think perspective from the federal system on this money has overtaken events since then. So I find it disconcerting a little bit, and I know it's not in a realm that you can control, but last October you had not great numbers of applications. Many people in the nonprofit world and in this housing world have had their kind of rug pulled out from under them, but we can't go and ask them again until October what their needs are. So I'm just want to voice that as an unfortunate situation. I appreciate you wanting to try and put as much of this dollars that are available into the community. And I hope we get another chance, and I hope your team is ready in October for when, if you do have money to grant out through this program for many, many more applications come October.
Well, thank you. And yes, absolutely love to spend money in the community, especially the Fed's money in the community. Just wanted, when we do applications, we're doing them months in advance of when we know that we're going to actually have money. So that's kind of a tough thing for me personally, is to get somebody's hopes up and then say, oh, sorry, can't do that, didn't get the money. Because I know people like stability. I know in my personal life, I like to know what's coming next. And so whenever I don't have that, then it puts me in a little bit of distress, and I know it does that to others.
Stability is so 2024.
I agree. I understand. Yes, I do understand.
Any follow-ups or anything, Councilor Tigan? Thank you. Good questions. Councilor Matthews, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a couple questions, and we talked about one of them or both of them, I think, already today, but I just wanted to confirm. So in the actual plan, it talks about kind of the things that lead to homelessness and kind of our outside of economic impacts. And one of the things that seems to be missing from the list is any type of mental health. And so I wanted to confirm that you mentioned that this was kind of a draft, and that in the future there would be some sort of mental health call out on this.
Yes, we can certainly do that, because we are in the middle of the public comment period. The purpose of this is to hear the public's comments. And so, this is not yet chiseled in stone. It's still written in pixels.
Okay. And then in line with that, it has drug and alcohol addiction as listed under special needs populations, along with persons of AIDS and disabilities.
Yeah.
I just want to confirm that that is the appropriate place for it. Because I know when I was looking at the HUD's definition of kind of what, houses that drug addiction, they do acknowledge that it goes under there unless it's for current illegal use of controlled substances. And so I just want to confirm that we're putting it in the right bucket, I guess, when we're describing it in our report.
I'll have to look at that in more detail because the definition I found didn't make that distinction.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I can actually comment on that. It really depends on whose definition of disability that you're using under the Fair Housing Act. That includes, disability includes mental health impairments. It includes substance abuse disorders, not current users of illegal substances, but that's HUD's definition. And there are more definitions than just HUD's definitions. So I would say, be cognizant of, you may want to use the Americans with Disabilities Act definition instead. So just being aware of which one you are specifically wanting to use.
Thank you very much.
Just as a follow-up, then who does this application go to? Is it HUD that it goes to, or where does CDBG, who are they?
I'm sorry, who is what?
CDBG, these funds, like who is actually, you said the feds.
Yeah, CDBG is Community Development Block Grant. That is a HUD issued grant.
HUD issue.
Right.
Okay.
And so the consolidated plan is submitted to HUD, and then HUD has to give its endorsement to the plan. And then once that's done, we actually can apply for the entitlement grant that we have been promised, and then we receive the allocation of money.
Gotcha. And so for that reason, would be my concern of not using the HUD definition and using a different definition, only because it's HUD that sounds like it approves this plan or doesn't. And so
I'll look into that further for you and have an answer for your next meeting.
Thank you.
Anyone else with questions? So, Michael, I'm going to ask a question. On page 4 of the report that I'm seeing, I was shocked at the denial of mortgage loans to specific groups or classified groups of people. Any strategies on that, or can you speak to this? I mean, I was shocked, increasing from 8 to 22%, 17 to 51%. This is very disheartening. So I'm just wondering if you can speak to that at all.
Not much. I will be honest with you. I went through the 2020 analysis of impediments and then compared it to the 2025 analysis of impediments to try to find things that were vastly different. Because if you'd asked me, I would have said things have maybe changed a little bit to the positive, but we're still pretty much in the same place we were 5 years ago. As hard as that is to admit. So when I saw that particular number, it really stood out to me, but I haven't had any kind of time to look into what, if it's unique to Salem even, it might be something that's national. I haven't had any time to really look and see if there's the underlying numbers to see if it's some kind of statistical anomaly. And let's say that it's true. I'm not 100% certain if there's a strategy I could recommend that on mortgage lending that the city could affect.
Again, thank you. I was utterly shocked by some of those numbers. So if you find out more, I would appreciate hearing about it. I think one other question I had, the Center for Hope and Safety, some funding is going to repair roof and water. It just opened recently. So I'm curious, was there, did something happen? Do they have any just completed insurance programs, because it was just a completed project, or is there other funding? And it might be to Councilor Nordike's point that Center for Hope and Safety maybe has lost out on other funding, and so turning to other sources. So fill me in on that.
Sure. Well, Hope Plaza is brand new, which is the 20-bedroom apartment complex with the first floor retail, which my conversation with Center for Hope and Safety 10 days ago or so, they are almost full on the first floor with tenants, and they were very pleased with that. So that piece is new, but the advocacy office, which is attached to it, is not new.
Okay.
It's about 30 years old, and like most 30-year-old buildings, the electrical system starts doing odd things, and parking lot fills up with water and the roof leaks.
Thank you for clarifying that. I was under the opinion that it was all a new facility infrastructure and that it clears up why they need that help. So great. Okay. Any other questions then from counselors? All right. Well, we do have testimony, and this was the one that Mr. Weinstein was trying to get on the other meeting. So, I will call Rick Gapo, and again, you'll have 3 minutes. Speak slowly and give us your address or ward. Welcome, Rick. Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here. Rick Gapo, Ward 1, and I'm speaking on behalf of Marion Polk Food Share, which is in Ward 5. First of all, I'm speaking in favor of the planned use of funds for new projects. Super appreciate Michael Brown reaching out to us to see if our project was advanced enough to qualify to move this along. So thank you so much for your support. We are looking for funds to acquire the new long-term and potentially permanent home of Marion Polk Food Share. Food banking is more important than it has ever been. I mean that literally. There are more people coming to food banks than any time that we've ever been able to record that number. And quite honestly, we are very concerned that our work is going to become more needed because of reduction in SNAP, Medicaid, and the Emergency Food Assistance Program. So we believe more people will start coming to our pantries. Marion Polk Food Share pre-COVID said we need to have our long-term home that is really going to house the both sides of our work, which is the traditional food banking that everyone understands, but Marion Polk Food Share also runs Meals on Wheels in great partnership with the City of Salem and Center 50 Plus, but we want to have one building to serve the community, one building where volunteers can come. So when you think about other goals the city has to reduce homelessness, one great way to do that is make sure you have a thriving, healthy food bank that can serve the community. If you want to reduce homelessness, help prevent the options between rent or food. If you want to make sure that our kids are thriving in school, make sure that they have food before school. If you want to make sure our seniors are healthy, make sure that they have good nutrition. This is what Marion Polk Food Share does every day. We are looking for a building that will be our long-term home to serve the community. And to give you some context of volume currently, and we expect this to get larger, but we did about 9.2 million pounds of food last year. That had about $14 million of economic relief that went out to low-income families last year alone. In addition to that, we served about 1,000 meals a day to seniors in our community. So I thank you for your support, Michael. I thank you for your leading this effort, and I thank you that Marion Polk Food Share could potentially be one of the beneficiaries of these programs.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate you being here and providing that testimony. Okay, I feel any last comments, questions? I shall close the public hearing. And Councillor Gwynn, do you have a motion?
I certainly do. So I move that we advance the 2025 to 2029 Consolidated Plan, 2025 Annual Action Plan, prior year Annual Action Plan amendments and analysis of impediments to the fair housing for approval at the July 28th, 2025 meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I think Tigan had the jump on that, so seconded by Tigan. Any other comments or anything? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councillor Matthews?
Aye.
Councillor Gwynn?
Aye.
Councillor Brown?
Aye.
Councillor Vang?
Aye.
Councillor Nordijk?
Aye.
Councillor Varney?
Aye.
Councillor Tigan?
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy is absent. Counselor Nishioka?
Aye. Recorder?
Did I miss someone?
No, okay, okay, the motion passes. Thank you all very much. And now we're moving on to special orders of business. I'll go ahead because I was the one that pulled two of the consent calendar items. I not wanting to change anything, I just felt that these were incredibly important subjects and directions that the city was taking, and I wanted all the counselors to be able to hear some of this information. So this is why I pulled them. So the 3.3A, I will go ahead and I believe, Mr. Weinstein, I need to read the motion first, and then we would have staff come up. Am I correct?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you for confirming. So for 3.3A, I move to authorize the interim city manager to sign and submit the primary funding agreement and any related agenda and amendments with the Circular Action Alliance Oregon LLC. Do I have a second?
Second. Thank
you, Councillor Teichen. All right, now that that motion has been brought forward, I believe Ryan Zink will be joining us to explain what this is and help us figure out what we hope to see with the Recycling Modernization Act. Thank you, Mr. Zink, for being here.
Thank you, Counselor. I don't have a formal presentation, mostly here just to answer questions, but I'll give a kind of a brief summary. As some of you may be aware, in 2021, a House bill was passed that set some things in motion that got us to the point with the Oregon Recycling Housing, or excuse me, housing. There's been a lot of housing tonight, so it's on my brain. Recycling Modernization Act. So what this does is moves Oregon towards, in fact, actually we're the first state in the country that has adopted this plan. There's about half a dozen that are well on their way to doing the same thing. But this moves us to a producer responsibility type program where the producers of certain materials, in this case, we're talking about paper and packaging materials, the producers of those materials share responsibility in the in ensuring that those products in the end life of those products. And so without getting into a lot of the detail, what this agreement allows us to do is sets us up to be able to receive funding with the Producer Responsible Organization, which is CAA. We have new requirements under Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, related to waste reduction moving forward. So July 1st is the implementation of that. We have until December 31st to have all elements of that in place. So this is a kind of like turning up a dial rather than turning on a switch. So we have that kind of a 6-month period of time, and all cities and counties within the state of Oregon are working on all these on this program. So CAA is collecting funds from their members, which are the producers. Those funds go to help implement improvements to our recycling system. Again, I won't go into a lot of the detail tonight. Happy to provide more information after the fact or later offline. But this agreement is a starting point for us in our agreement with the Community Act, or the with CAA, the Circular Action Alliance, to receive that funding that will help pay for certain elements of those programming.
Thank you, Ryan. So those of us on the solid waste have been able to hear about this coming forward, and basically funds are coming in that are being paid by the manufacturers. A lot of it being packaging. So you have a plastic thing of shampoo, and currently, oftentimes, some of these materials can't get recycled, and so now we're now having to follow through with processes so that either more opportunities for recycling are going to be present, or that the manufacturer has to support how to dispose of it. So this is really quite a big deal, and as Mr. Zink said, we're having it on the dial. It's not going to be, you know, black and white. It was July 1st, I believe, Ryan. And so, you know, we're going to be slowly educating and training on preparing our haulers that will take these materials to other locations, and all of us having to be aware of what we can now do with materials. So things will be changing. Education is going to be a huge part of this, and so funding is coming through for that education process too. I just feel so strongly how this is quite critical, and it's going to take time to implement. I really appreciate the fact that we're going to be working at it slowly, so that we can make sure we're getting everything in place. That's all I'll say, and now I'll let Councillor Teigen weigh in.
Thank you, Mr. Zink, for coming before the council, of course. Trying to scratch back to my last bill from our public services every couple months. What do I pay? I don't know, $75, $80? Is it $100 now? My question to you, and I know this, you're the administrator, I'm not putting you on the spot as like the person deciding these rates, but if the producers of this trash that is coming to our house and then we pay money to get rid of it, if they're paying into a new fund that sorts to maybe connect with the idea that they're somehow responsible for the production of the trash as well, are we going to see a decrease in our bills because of it? Like, how much money are we talking about? Is it the city's going to get $2,000, the city's going to get $200,000, the city's going to get $2 million? What are we talking about?
Sure. So I wouldn't expect to see a decrease in your bill. Unfortunately, I wish that was part of it. What I will say is that all elements related to this, you know, the idea is that we have one, products that are produced are more recyclable. The two is that again, those products that are produced, that there is an end market for those to go to. And then another element of this is our processors and the transportation, and that no matter where we are within the state, we're able to get those recyclable materials to the processor, and it kind of equalizes the field statewide. Another big piece of this I didn't mention earlier is that there's now a uniform statewide collection list. So what is recyclable in one city is the same list of recyclable items in one city is the same in another city. And so we don't have, you know, Portland having a different list than Salem, than Bend, or wherever. So we're all working off of the same list of what was determined to be recyclable.
So you're saying this is essentially how we get to everyone gets to recycle number 5 yogurt containers, and that's what this money goes towards.
Yep. So the funding that we're talking about for the City of Salem, it's mentioned in the staff report, $3 per capita, which equates to is $532,000 a year. That funding is specific to contamination or recycling contamination education. So you can imagine, you know, your blue recycling bin, it's called the commingled recycling. There's things that go in that bin that aren't supposed to go into it. And sometimes it's just things that need to be sorted out. It can also be items that contaminate other things that were already clean. So for instance, if you have a bottle of soap and it's not empty, it spills onto paper, and that paper or cardboard is now contaminated and can't be recycled. So this is all about educating and that education outreach portion of the contamination reduction. There is another element of this in that this is where we could actually see, I'm not going to say a reduction in rates, but a offsetting of future increases, is that part of the processor. Yeah, this isn't funding that we're going to see specific to this, so it's funding going directly to the processors, such as Garten Recycling. Was mentioned earlier that we've done some things with them before. So Garten is one of the two primary processors, and Garten happens to be here in the city of Salem. There may be funding going directly to them that helps offset our haulers' cost of disposal of what goes to them. So we may actually see a decrease in the cost of disposal of commingled recycling items.
There's always hope, right? Right, Ryan? There's always hope.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Bang, go right ahead with your question or comment.
Thank you, Councillor Nishioka. Mr. Zink, I appreciate you being here and providing that background information for this agreement. As you know, education is part of this process. I want to ensure that I am understanding what this agreement is trying to do. And is it accurate to say that the city is entering into this agreement with circular action to essentially act as a pass-through entity for funding to make sure that these providers meet the new recycling requirements?
I'm going to say yes and no. So there are other elements of funding that we have already designated the provider that money can go directly to them. We don't need to be in the middle of that. Staff is already overworked in a lot of areas. There's no sense in adding additional administration to that process. This one area of contamination reduction, education, and outreach is an area that I felt was important that we as staff in the city of Salem be a part of. And so that's where we've asked for that funding to be directed to the city. We may also, so we have the option as part of, again, without going into a lot of the background detail, we left the door open to be able to have money sent to us, to have that money sent directly to our haulers and or our providers such as Marion County as the waste shed manager. And so some of those funding may go to all one direction. It could be coming out of the city or split between the three of us, if you will, the haulers, county, and us, depending on what elements of that contamination reduction we pick up.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any further questions? And thank you all for indulging me in pulling this. I do feel it's very important information, and I wanted to share it with those the rest of the council that is not on the committee with us. And thank you, Mr. Zink, for being here and answering questions and sharing the information. So we've had the motion and it's been seconded, motion by Nishioka, seconded by Tigan. If there's no more questions, will the recorder please call the roll?
Councillor Gwynn?
Aye.
Councillor Brown?
Aye.
Councillor Vang?
Aye.
Councillor Nordig?
Aye.
Councillor Varney?
Aye.
Councillor Tigan?
Aye.
Councillor Matthews?
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy is absent. Councillor Nishioka?
Aye. Again, thank you, everybody. All right, now to 3.3B. Again, thank you for indulging me on wanting to have all of you hear about this. I move to authorize the contribution of $10,000 from the city's utility fund to support a study of PFAS in wastewater treatment biosolids to be conducted by Oregon State University.
Second.
And who was the second on that? Oh, thank you, Deanna. Okay. All right. Again, thank you all for your patience on this. And it looks like, I believe Mr. Martin will be the first and maybe others will come in. Thank you for staying on with us and being ready to talk about PFAS. As we all know, it's a very current conversation. And so I'm hoping that you can help us all understand it a little bit better.
Absolutely. Good evening, Council President Nishioka and City Councilors. Brian Martin, your Public Works Director. Councilor Nishioka kicked it off well. PFAS are a series of substances that are also called forever chemicals. I think that's the most common term people hear generally. What they are perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances. They're manufactured and have been used in the industry and consumer products since the 1940s. What they are is they contain a lot of carbon and fluorine atoms that form a really tight bond. And so when you think about, what applications they really fall into are, the first thing I think of is a Teflon frying pan. They're there so that things don't stick. Another common use is waterproofing. So outdoor clothing that contain Gore-Tex. These substances are used for quite a bit of it. And it's actually in many, many other things that we use every day. There are thousands of them, and some of them have been studied more than others. There's short chains and long chains. Generally, a long chain, which means there's a lot of carbon, fluorine atoms, they're more harmful to human health. So one of the common characteristics, as I had mentioned, they don't break down in the environment, and over time they can build up in plants, animals, and the environment. The EPA actually started regulating 6 of those in drinking water in 2023 or 2024. I can happily say that we test our drinking water and we don't have any detections of any of those in our drinking water. We also test for, I think there's another 23 or 26 in addition to those that we haven't tested and found any of those detected in our drinking water either. When it comes to biosolids, there currently are no federal regulations or Oregon regulations for PFAS and wastewater and biosolids. I can tell you that they're currently being studied by the Environmental Protection Agency, and they're probably going to be federal rules coming out sometime in the next several years. And when we talk about biosolids, those are actually the treated solids that are the result of the biological process of wastewater treatment. So these are treated solids that then can be used for agricultural use on farm fields. The Oregon DEQ actually has programs. They have to approve us before we can use them and give them to farmers to apply in their farm fields. Farmers like them because it's a good, cheap way to get fertilizers that had always generally been thought to be healthy. Now there's concerns with the PFAS in them. How healthy are they? So while the EPA is going to be taking time to figure these things out, a lot of states across the country have already done their own studies and testing, and they've started putting regulations together for what's an adequate level of PFAS in a biosolid before you can actually place it in the field. Oregon does not have that, and what we're happy about is this study that's going to be done by Oregon State University is going to help the state of Oregon figure out what limitations or regulations we should have in our own state. We did begin testing our wastewater and biosolids back in February 2023, and we test them quarterly since that time. And we have learned that the biosolids do contain PFAS substances in our what comes from our Willow Lake wastewater treatment facility. Generally, they fall at or below levels that other states are already allowing to be used for land applications. But what we do know is depending on the climates and the soils and how they're used, it can vary by state. If we've been looking at this and studying it, we're trying to figure out, okay, what risks do we want to take? And the best information we've had to compare ourselves to are, there's 10 or 12 other states that put these in place. And without Oregon having one, we're not quite sure, what to do with that. So we're excited that Oregon is going to go through this process. I can tell you that I had a meeting last week And I see Texas now is proposing regulations that are actually much lower than what most other states are using. And so I think this is going to be an ongoing problem as we go forward, and having rules in place that we can follow will be very helpful for us. So, you know, we supported the $10,000 for the study. We think it's appropriate, and it'll help us figure out our game plan going into the future and how we use or apply biosolids.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. I think I'd like to just add to that the $10,000 comes from the utility fund, and that's the water and wastewater rates. At first, I was thinking that it was out of the operations collection, and it's not. So thank you for clarifying that with me earlier. PFAS are quite a concern. There's some states that have really high numbers. I have been, poor Mr. Martin, I've been asking him about this since I came on council, and he has been sharing the results of the testing that's been done. And I again asked him about the biosolids with the concerns that the forever chemicals are just making a circle and getting back in the dirt. But I'm just really happy that this study is moving forward. I might ask you if you can explain, sometimes people would say, well, can't we use the results of other studies? Can you speak to why a study needs to be done here instead of relying on studies from other places?
Yeah, so, you know, with the different climates being unique, I mean, the chemicals are all the same, but how they interact with the types of soils that we have and the climate that we have can make a difference in what level of PFAS can be in the product. And so that's why having a study done in our own state is going to be helpful to us.
You're on mute, President Nishioka.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. I see your hand raised. Go ahead, Councillor Tigan.
Yes, thank you, Director Martin. Our biosolid disposal for the City of Salem, is that a revenue generator for us? Are we selling biosolid to farmers to use as fertilizer?
Generally, no, we're not selling it. So
we come up and pick it up at the back and take it off our hands.
We actually haul it away. So we have workout programs with farmers, and it's a benefit to us to get rid of it in some way without having to take it to a landfill and pay that charge. So we make those agreements, and then we actually haul it out to their farm fields and plate it, and then they spread it.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Councillor Vang, go right ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Nishioka. Mr. Martin, I appreciate you and the Public Works Department being here to provide information and context for this piece of action item, and really answering my question about why are we wanting to do this study. And it sounds like it's a step in the right direction to ensure we know what is out there, identify the problem, and then have fact and data-based solutions. So I appreciate you being here and providing that information.
Thank you, Councillor Vang. Any other questions? Wasn't that thrilling information? I think it's really important information, and I so appreciate all of you for being here and talking about it. And as I said, I know that it's something that I have been talking with Mr. Martin about and Mr. Natin about for the last couple of years. All right, so we have no more. Oh, Councillor Varney, go right ahead.
Had to hit the right button there. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about delayed. I had scribbled down a few questions and I forgot to raise my hand. One of the questions, so Director Martin, first of all, thank you for continuing to pursue this, because this is truly a concern, the PFAS. What was I going to ask? Okay, as a result of the testing, do you have any idea if we will be able, as part of the testing or monitoring, will we be able to kind of tie down the source more, whether it's from leachate from a particular area or something. Is that going to be part of the study?
That's a great question. I think well, I'm going to go ahead and share what I believe to be happening, and I'm going to ask staff to jump in and help me out. I believe this plan is really about understanding the effects of PFAS on our soils, in our systems, to determine if there's a threshold of PFAS that is acceptable and a threshold that is not. Where it comes from, I don't believe is going to be part of the study. I mean, we have done our own analysis to see, you know, how does leachate affect the PFAS in our wastewater versus no leachate. And for those that are wondering, what is leachate? Leachate is the liquid byproduct of landfills. And so as rainwater, rains on a landfill, and that water permeates through the landfill on the bottom, there's a series of underdrain systems that collect that water. That water is called leachate. So what we do know is the best way to treat for PFAS is generally at the source, because that's where the volume of the liquid, say with leachate, is the smallest, versus trying to treat trying to treat thousands of gallons at the source versus trying to treat millions of gallons at a wastewater treatment plant would require you to have much bigger, robust, more expensive treatment processes. So the source is the best place to do it. I don't think the study is going to go there, but Nitin Joshi is on this call. And Nitin, if you're there, can you help answer that question?
Sure. This is Nitin Joshi, Environmental and Operations Technology Manager with Public Works. And thank you, Councillor Varney, your question regarding trying to figure out whether this study is going to consider any sources. I don't think that's the reason for the study. The study is more to find out if, like what Director Martin said, application of any kind of biosolids on farmland, would that impact any of our medias, especially the soil? And in Oregon, groundwater becomes a big issue when you think about it. It would be different if the study was done in, say, Arizona as opposed to Oregon. So it's important for local conditions to be considered, especially in the Willamette Valley. We have a big, issue when it comes to application of biosolids, when it comes to wet weather. So it's very important for us to understand what's happening with PFAS and whether it can be continued to be applied, to what level it can be continued to be applied.
Okay, thank you. I kind of figured as much, that it wasn't going to be spread out that broad, but it is a question I have down the road. Let's put it that way. Sure. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. I do feel that this is a small amount of money that can provide us with data and deciding and shaping policy for the future. So thank you all. Moved by Nishioka, seconded by Gwynn. Recorder, will you please call the roll?
Councillor Brown?
Aye.
Councillor Vang?
Aye.
Councillor Nordijk?
Aye.
Councillor Varney?
Aye.
Councillor Tigan?
Aye.
Councillor Matthews?
Aye.
Councillor Gwynn?
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy is absent. Councillor Nishioka?
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you all very much. Okay, we're moving on to information reports. I shall simply call out the number. If anyone has a question or a comment, please raise your hand so that I can notice that and then allow you to speak. Item 6A. Councillor Matthews, please go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of ask a question and identify kind of some of the stuff that's on this. So one of the things that kind of pieced out to me is that we're approving multiple consultant contracts on this administrative approvals and contractor records. And so I'd asked about a couple different ones, just saying, hey, do we have anything actually set for these providers at this point? And so one of them was Eco Northwest, one of them was Lango Hansen Landscape, another one was Portland State University. which in total we're approving contracts, or not approving, sorry, but this right here gives them contracts for up to $2.75 million over the next year. And it was just concerning to me because when I looked at it, it sounds like we don't have anything actually approved or anything scheduled for any of these consultants to do at this point. It's just the authorization for staff to be able to basically utilize those 2.75 million funds throughout the year as they see fit with those providers. And so I just want to confirm that after we approve these numbers, or after these numbers are approved, that there is some still check and balance still happening on the city side to make sure that those funds that we're spending, the 500,000 with Equa Northwest, or the 750,000 with Portland State University, or the 1.5 million with Lango Hansen, or any of the other consultants that we have on record, that we're spending those funds appropriately, wisely, and just, you know, with an abundance of caution and kind of towards outcomes. And so I just want to confirm there's some sort of checks and balance there.
Councillor Matthews, thank you for that question. I see that we have our CFO, Josh Ingliston, with us, and I bet he's ready to speak to that.
President Nishioka, I'm going to take that question if it's okay.
Thank you.
And then maybe Josh can follow that. So I just want to kind of give, and Councillor Matthews, thank you so much for that question. So I just want to kind of a little bit of background on how we have been managing in March. As part of the cost saving measures, we did pause spending on certain initiatives, and then we implemented an exception process for any kind of unavoidable expenses. For example, the technology purchases, and we also took one of the cost saving measures was we were not going to use any new consultants, and those were some of the examples of what we were trying to control cost savings through. So part of that process also included, especially for like an exception process that would go through the CFO, and then the CFO had the opportunity to approve or disapprove, and kind of based on the urgency of the request and all that. So that's kind of the additional oversight by the CFO. So for the fiscal year 26, we decided to continue this oversight process. And I think Councillor Matthews, to your point, on these particular expenses that you kind of listed for the consultants, our plan is and keep working on extending the same process, the oversight process, to the existing consultants also, so that as we are getting requests from the departments about spending those funds, we make sure that they're being spent on critical needs, and also there is an accountability for deliverables from those consultants, right? So we're kind of going to take this and add it to the process that we already set up in March. Does that answer your question, or?
I think so. So just to reiterate, so I make sure I understand well. So like when we allocate let's say the 500,000 to Equa Northwest, prior to that actually being spent out, there'll have to be some sort of approval process that'll go through the CFO and the city manager's office to ensure that whatever it's going to be spent on is kind of meets all the criteria that we're looking for it to meet, and that it has an outcome metric on the end. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
as long as that's the case, that was just, I wanted to make sure we weren't just allocating the money to be carte blanche out there, but that it has some sort of like oversight. So perfect.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown, it sounds like you have, or it looks like you have a question.
Yes, thanks, Madam President. I just want to follow up with what the city manager said. So with it being a part of our information reports tonight, will it come before council again for us to vote on it, or it'll just be between you and the CFO?
It's between me and the CFO. It's kind of part of the administration. So what I was talking about, we already have a process of like oversight with other expenses. So we will kind of add this existing consultants also to that process, and it kind of keeps it consistent with how we are operating with other expenses.
Got it. Thank you for the clarity. I yield the floor back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So if that concludes 6A, then anything on 6B? All right. And let's see. And then we have anything on 6C? 6D. Counselor Matthews, go right ahead.
I think this one will be a really quick one. Because it's in my ward, I just want to make sure, were there any comments or concerns from the applicant or from the applicant's representative on this land use? Or the conditional use permit?
I see Lisa is coming on. Thank you for being here, Lisa. I didn't see you earlier, so thank you.
Hi there. I just realized how dark it is. Sorry about that. Hi, Lisa. There's no your planning administrator. No concerns from the applicant on the decision.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. We don't have any ordinances. We don't have first readings. We do not have second readings. We are now to public comment on number 8. Before I begin to call the names, we have 12 people that will be speaking. We've been 2 hours before we've had a break. Do we want a break or do we want to, I'm seeing some heads shake. So we will take another 5-minute break and then we'll be back and then we will get to all of our public testimony. And thank you all for those that have signed up. We'll be right back with you. Thank you, everybody. Nice to get a 5-minute break. We're all back. Thank you. We now have agenda item 8, which is public testimony on items not on the agenda. I have the list of people. I hope that I will read your names correctly. Again, I will briefly go over, I will call your name in the order submitted. And you will get 3 minutes to speak. When you turn on your microphone, please state your name, your address, or your ward. And then when you speak, you will want to speak. Don't speak too fast because we have interpreter. And that we want you to stay on topic. And that's, I think, about it. All right, so I hope everyone has stayed with us. The first person up is Jean Hindron. If you'll please go ahead and turn on your mic and provide your testimony. So
here, yeah, I'm here. I was just trying to turn on my mic. I'm sorry.
Wonderful, Jean, go right ahead.
Thank you. Jean Henrin, Ward 6, and out of concern over the recent conflict between local businesses and our unsheltered neighbors, I'd like to say that we are seeking a government that conforms to diversity, a government that can see agreements even in conflict and can enforce boundaries while still acknowledging the love and respect we have for one another. I am not suggesting we remove all boundaries, but that we consider the needs of the people who may find themselves adversely affected by those boundaries. We all need boundaries, but we're put on earth not to dominate and judge one another, but to enjoy life and learn something from it. I have learned the most powerful tool we have is love. How do we define love? It starts with respect and turns into empathy, win-win conflict resolution, and a willingness to put effort into solutions. At Marion Park, when police were sweeping the camps, I tried to mediate a conflict between police and a man who was trying to salvage his personal belongings. I don't remember the outcome, but that man crossed my path again later and told me he had planned to kill himself that day, but began to understand from my advocacy that someone really did care about him. He stopped using meth and had been accepted back into his father's home because of his abstinence. I've met so many people without housing in Salem who are struggling more with feelings of insignificance than they are with substance abuse. I've seen more death in the last 5.5 years than I had in the previous 70. Our unsheltered neighbors are not insignificant. They are people with children, mothers, fathers, and siblings, or maybe just friends, significant people in the lives of others. These are moral people willing to defend the helpless. I watched as one elderly man, also unsheltered, carried another double amputee on his back because there was no wheelchair for him. I interacted with a man who had been so badly beaten he could not accept help except the blankets his trusted unsheltered neighbors put over him and the hot soup I placed on the ground within his reach. On the third day, those same neighbors helped me get him up, walk him to my car, help him in, and he allowed me to take him to a hospital. As I watched the ASPCA commercials, I wonder why we do not have the same compassion for people. Perhaps we understand that those animals are blameless for their circumstances, and we assume that people are not. Still, they are just as frightened and in need of our help. Hannah Arendt, who wrote the book, The Origins of Totalitarianism, wisely highlighted the importance of critical thinking and the ability to distinguish between right and wrong as crucial safeguards against totalitarianism. And I am asking the same of you tonight as we address the needs of all members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jean. I'm going to call the next person, and then behind them, I will say the person that will follow so that they can be at the ready. Kathleen Thorpe will be the next one, and then Lanai Wilcox following her.
Good evening. My name's Kathleen Thorpe, and I became an advocate. I live at 2943 Tess Avenue Northeast. Next slide, please. It was really cold outside. I walked into a building at my job site, old nasty gas station, to be torn down, and I found children's toys scattered in the remains of a small warming fire. That broke my heart. Baby mom, what's going on? Next slide, please. I tripped over the curb, carrying a large box of feminine hygiene products into Hope. Younger man with the brightest blue eyes with little round glasses peered at me. Lady, are you all right? I told him my biggest damage was probably to my pride. Well, he said, at least you're in good company. As the other homeless men were picking up my scattered items and offers to help me up off the sidewalk, my new blue-eyed friend allowed as to how he had been a medic in Iraq. Next slide. Her husband died, her apartment building sold, and she found herself in our shelter. She was 84, and I am without words. Next slide. Young women in mental health warming center. Young woman comes running into the shelter to rescue the people screaming in the basement. There were no people screaming in the basement. I chased her down. She wanted to save them, to take care of them. I wanted to save her, take care of her. She ran off into the freezing night. The homeless guys outside said she was schizophrenic. I was a small business owner in Salem for 30 plus years. I did environmental consulting and cleanup. I've walked into many shuttered businesses and found signs of folks living in the most desperate circumstances. And I had to understand, I wanted to understand. My upbringing had not prepared me for this. I knew about hobos and making sure I was able to take care of myself. What are bootstraps? I didn't know what bootstraps were. It's a loop with the back of your boot to pull your boot on with. Next slide. It's more than I will ever know. Education, understanding homelessness. There's a lot to learn about mental health, poverty, aging, illness, domestic violence, addiction, and incarceration. Advocacy. Can we fix it? Kindness, listening. There's not one fix for all. Community support. Silos are not helpful. As a shelter volunteer, 15 years of advocacy, they are people. I have no fear, but I am so sad when there are no pathways. Focusing on what we can do, be kind, value people, come together as a strong community, collaboration, creativity, so many rules severely limit even stopgap efforts. Focus on.
Kathleen, thank you. Your 3 minutes is up. Thank you very much. It was a lovely presentation.
Thank you.
After Linnell, then Lori Walker, and I neglected to mention that when you're giving testimony, you should have your cameras on so that we can see you. Thank you very much. All right, go ahead, Linnell, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Linnell Wilcox. I live on Norway Street in Ward 1. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I began working with people experiencing homelessness when I was volunteering at a Salem warming center 8 years ago. I've been captured ever since. Initially, I wondered why so many people were homeless. If they need money and a place to live, why don't they just get a job? If they're struggling with addiction, why don't they just go to detox or rehab? If they have mental illness, why don't they go to a psychiatrist and get medication? I've learned so much since then. One woman I met sometimes screamed profanity at people I can't see. One day I asked her, why don't you see a psychiatrist? Why don't you get medicine so you don't struggle so much? She told me, Linnell, I tried that. The only medication that quiets the voices in my head gives me extreme diarrhea. So I can be that crazy lady who screams at curses at people you can't see, or I could be the woman who has poop on her clothes. You pick. And I realized I'd make her same choice. I've changed my mind and heart so much along the way. At my last job, I was a social worker helping people with disabilities to use work incentives to move forward. One client had mental illness and Tourette's, and he sometimes yelled at people I can't see. I wasn't afraid. I knew his diagnosis, and I expected this behavior from him sometimes. When I began working with homeless people outside, I initially noticed that I did feel fear whenever someone was yelling at people I can't see. I had to think to myself, what is the difference? I'm in public. Why am I afraid? The only difference I could come up with is that some part of me must think that homeless people are dangerous. I had to fix that misperception in my own head. I asked some officers last week about what they're seeing. They shared that downtown crimes seem to be mostly livability crimes, feces, broken windows, camping, fires, trash, petty theft, crimes that reflect people having nowhere to have basic human needs met, nowhere to sleep, go to the bathroom, eat, or live. Meanwhile, we have shootings, gang violence, sheltered adults, and even sheltered teens who specifically commit violence against people experiencing homelessness. One teenager beat a 64-year-old homeless man to death. National data reflects that homeless people are more likely to be the victims of violence than perpetrators of violence against a stranger. Men and women have shared that they first began doing meth when they were homeless because they have to stay awake at night in order to stay safe. Some men sleeping on sidewalks have shared that they sometimes woke up because some men are peeing on them as they sleep. The bars let out, and this is their fun. Who does that? We do have a safety and livability issues. People experiencing homelessness do not have livability of even having basic human needs met. This calls the question of whether our values apply to all people who live and work in Salem, including all people or just sheltered people. Sorry. We need to live up to Salem's professed values and not down to our fears. Life, liberty, justice, inclusion, communityness, belonging, and livability for all.
Ms. Wilcox, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. 3 minutes is up. Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. After Lori, the next person will be Lindsay Bigelow. So
And Lindsay's not online.
Oh, she is not, no longer. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Then Christina Ballard would be the person after Lori. So Lori, please go right ahead with your testimony.
Good evening, City Council. Thanks for getting to us now. It's been a long night. Anyways, I'm a retiree, a legal guardian, advocate for unsheltered and mentally ill for many years. How do we as a city want others to view us? The city of peace, kindness, hateful to some of those that some see unworthy? Everyone has a story. The stories are all different, as we are all different. I have been in homeless shelters and camps around the country on various road trips because I'm interested to see how Salem compares with other places. So far, the biggest eye-opener to me was in Bozeman, Montana. The working poor living in cars by the Costco. The trucks, campers on the streets. There are store clerks, restaurant service workers who are priced out of homes. Their areas are clean. They have parking permits. They have dumpsters and restrooms. They are respected and treated with kindness. They used to live in homes. Many of the homes in Bozeman now are $700,000 and up. The rents are high. It's unaffordable for people on Social Security, minimum wage, or disability. Bozeman, the same as Salem, many may be disabled, mentally ill, clean and sober, alcoholics or addicts. They are us, all of us. They need roofs over their heads, showers and toilets too. A big difference across America is how we see the unsheltered, how we treat the unsheltered. Do we see them as ourselves, our relatives, precious loved ones? Do we see them as our neighbors and friends? Or do we see them as unworthy losers? Unworthy because they don't have a home, unworthy because they are battling their own brains. Do we see ourselves as better because we have homes? Do we question why the mentally ill and homeless are living on the streets? Do we question why the state and the county have such a broken mental health system? All people need kindness, dignity, respect, and compassion. The state of Oregon nor the county have any behavioral mental health people on the streets. The agencies are doing that. The advocates are doing that. I would respectfully request that we think about the unsheltered neighbors as ourselves. Think of solutions that help people, not hurt them.
Thank you, Lori.
And I'm so thankful for everyone who's doing something.
All right. Thank you very much, Lori.
Thank you.
Christina will be next, but I'm going to let Scott Russell know that you will be following Christina. Go right ahead, Christina.
Thank you, counselors and fellow advocates and everyone else for hanging in there tonight. The democratic process is certainly an important thing to keep up with. The idea that some people are not welcome or do not belong is, I think, where I need to start tonight. At the previous city council meeting, I watched someone representing downtown businesses state that certain people are no longer welcome downtown. And that's part of the problem. The idea that one group of people gets to decide who they can exclude from a downtown that belongs to everyone. downtown does not belong to just certain businesses or who their target demographic is. Downtown does not belong to just the academic or the cultured. Downtown does not belong to just people who look or act a certain way. It belongs to everybody who lives, works, and plays here, visits here. I've made friends downtown. I found some cool shops. I like a couple eateries I found a clothing store I like. But I don't see the place that a vocal few are telling me about. I believe the facts that, yeah, there are nuisance crimes that seem to be the biggest problem. And as you've heard from other people, those are livability crimes, something that we can solve with kindness and a few things that we know we can have an impact doing. And what everybody keeps talking about, this perception that downtown is dangerous, is just that, a perception. Sadly, the horrific incident at UGM is being exploited as a convenient excuse to push for a solution that no one necessarily wants, just more police. The police chief himself will tell you that the solution needs to be proactive and not reactive. They want a homeless services team and cleanup. They want engaging and connecting, providing resources. And just today in the Salem Reporter, they stated that every business owner they spoke to said that they were unsure that more police downtown would help. But there's a small group calling for broken window policing, which we know will not produce the stated supposed desired result, which is fewer crimes, but it will result in harming marginalized groups and result in that ability I spoke of earlier, where one group gets to determine who gets to participate in downtown. To listen to some people, you would think we were living in 1974 in New York City or Baltimore, and that's simply not true. To scapegoat mentally ill and unsheltered is an easy way out. I'd love to have enough time to provide you an encyclopedia full of citations, but the only proof I need to show you in this case is that nearly all of the victims in the UGM incident on June 1 were homeless men.
Thank you very much, Christina. That's it. City Manager Number, did you have something that you wanted to say? Oh,
No,
sorry.
I accidentally raised.
All right, I saw the hand go up. I just wanted to be sure. Mr. Russell, Scott Russell will be next, and after Scott will be Manny Martinez. Mr. Russell, go right ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, there's a lot of background noise, but let's do your best. Oh, did we lose you? Let's go ahead. Mr. Russell, if you want to get back in, go ahead. If not, I don't see you. All right. Mr. Martinez, why don't you go ahead? And if Mr. Russell gets in, Mr. Russell, are you going to try again?
In that general area. I was fortunate then, since
Mr. Russell, we seem to have trouble keeping you. I'm going to have Mr. Martinez go next, and then we'll try you again. Go right ahead, Manny.
Hello, my name is Manny Martinez, and I live in Ward 2. I'm here today to speak about public safety and homelessness in Salem, specifically in and around the downtown area. This has become a very divisive issue in our city, and like most issues these days, the arguments are generally divided by left and right. The left argues for the side of compassion. We are told that we must be more compassionate and provide more services, as the majority of the homeless are suffering from mental illness and addiction issues. The right will argue that the homeless population are committing crimes, some of which are serious crimes and causing significant damage to the business community and downtown as a whole. Today, I would like to say something that perhaps has never been said at a city council meeting. Both sides are correct. We do need to have compassion for these people. They are human beings and they are suffering. We do need to make more investments into mental health and addiction services, as well as shelters and transitional housing. However, we cannot ignore the fact that the homeless community is committing a significant amount of crime. And even though it is true that being homeless itself is not a crime, it is indeed a crime to defecate in the streets. Public urination is a crime. Leaving giant piles of trash on the sidewalks and the streets is a crime. Trespassing on private property is a crime. Vandalism is a crime. Shoplifting is a crime. Harassment and threatening behavior towards fellow citizens is a crime. I could go on. And I say this as a recovering alcoholic myself with 6+ years of sobriety. I understand this issue better than most, and I have a tremendous amount of compassion for these people. However, having mental illness or addiction is not a free pass to commit crimes. We have laws. We either have laws or we don't. And laws are only laws when they are enforced, regardless of the economic status of the individual. Chief Womack has made it abundantly clear that one of the best things we can do in the immediate to improve our public safety is to provide the police department with enough additional funding to bring back the bicycle patrol to downtown Salem. Ideally, this would be an additional 8 officers that would be deployed to patrol the downtown area on bicycles. I remember when we had this, and the officers did a fantastic job. They were in constant communication with the local business owners and provided the downtown area with a heightened sense of peace and security. With the passing of the tax levy and now the addition of paid parking in all of downtown Salem, I insist that the City Council make public safety the #1 priority. Additional funding to the police department for the bicycle patrol officers is a practical and necessary first step to address the ongoing issue of public safety in Salem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. We're going to try Mr. Russell again here in a moment. Following him will be Laura Crowfoot. Yes, Councilor Gwynn.
I would like to move that we extend our meeting by 15 minutes to accommodate the remaining folks. And then I would suggest to Mr. Russell that he turn off his camera. He might have better luck. So.
All right.
Second the motion.
I'm sorry, who was that seconded?
Tigan.
Tigan, thank you. Been moved by Councilor Gwynn, seconded by Tigan. Recorder, will you please call the roll to extend our time?
Councilor Vang?
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke?
Aye.
Councilor Varney?
Aye.
Councilor Tigan?
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka?
Aye.
Councilor Matthews?
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn?
Aye.
Councilor Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy is absent.
All right, motion passes. Thank you very much for doing that. We are now allowed to get to 10:15 if we have to. Let's see how we do. So, Mr. Russell, let's give you a try again, and we'll go from there. Oh, I'm sorry, I do have to say that there is a rule that he has to have his camera on. Okay. So let's see if it can work with his camera on. If not, then he might have to provide testimony at another time.
He's not on at all.
He's not on. All right, Laura Crowfoot, would you like to, thank you. Thanks for coming on, and you're ready to start your testimony.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Laura Crowfoot, accidental homeless advocate. I live in Ward 8. I'm troubled by the villainization of our community members who are experiencing homelessness. Who are these increasing number of people in our midst? I'd like to share a story to add a face to one such member. He's my younger brother. Back in 2003, 22 years ago, making a salary of about $90,000 a year, my brother began hearing voices. After a long bout with serious depression, he lost his lucrative job, his marriage, and then his home. He was 26 years old. He lived in his truck for a couple of years, constantly ticketed for parking under streetlights for safety. At some point, I couldn't afford to continue to pay those tickets, and his truck or home was towed away. We tried, moving him into my home, but his unpredictable and at times erratic behavior made it unsafe and uncomfortable for my children and me, which was heartbreaking. Now he was straight up on the street. He was loved, but his paranoia and undiagnosed schizophrenia prevented him from seeking the help he so desperately needed. My brother was beaten with fists, pipes, and kicked so many times during the next 20 years, not by his community, but by housed folks looking to hurt and victimize easy targets who didn't have doors to lock behind them. Thanks to other homeless folks, I was able to keep in contact with my brother over those decades so I could provide clean, warm clothes, etc., as they helped me find him and even mediated the visits as his paranoia at times made him afraid to trust me. He screamed and yelled at times and he looked dangerous, but in reality, he was slowly dying down to a mere 123 pounds. After many arrests, we finally got the justice system to put him on a psych hold, and he was evaluated, medicated, and received meaningful help. As of July, my brother has been housed for 2 years and is making steady progress regaining his physical and mental health. Every face you see on the street has a unique story. We should use our privilege to lower the barriers preventing them from feeling unwanted. For so many, the road to being housed looks impossible. Don't be a roadblock or reason for them to give up or to believe that they're worthy of respect, dignity, and housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that. I hadn't the opportunity to let the next person know, but is Ron Pereira on? And I probably pronounced that incorrectly. Ron, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Okay, well, thank you very much for extending the time here. And well, my name is Ronald Pereira, and I live in 97301 area code, which is Ward 5. And I actually submitted two letters previously, and I made a presentation at a previous city council meeting about the unfortunate, I won't go over it due to the time restraint, incident that I experienced when appealing my speed camera ticket. And I encountered Judge Eleanor Beatty, on February 7th. But let me read what I have so my time doesn't expire. The city is responsible, has the duty to assure programs are legally implemented. The camera that took my picture was not calibrated. The police officer who read the pictures was not trained in the 6-month period as dictated by law. The police made, at the hearing, the police made misleading testimony that it was calibrated. When I asked him about calibration and him being trained, he went on and talked about being a police officer for 20 years, but he knew exactly the law because he attends many of the meetings that he's supposed to give the date of the calibration and give the date of his training, which he did not. Eleanor Beatty, who is the justice at municipal court there at Salem, heard his testimony and did not make any, and allowed him to make it, and did not dismiss the ticket. When I raised the questions to Miss Judge Beatty, and she refused to give me traffic school, which is the policy of the municipal court, to give people with a clean record an opportunity to go to traffic school. Judge Beatty, okay. I intend on suing the district. By the way, I only have 6 months from the time Judge Beatty did this, so I'm going to have to muster my complaint pretty quick. It'll be for abuse of process and malicious prosecution for the city of Salem, the Salem Police Department, and Justice Eleanor Beatty. I will be filing a civil litigation action against those 3 named people. Entity. And by the way, for your sovereign immunity does not apply in this case. I've been doing much research for the past few months on this issue. Sovereign immunity does not apply to the city of Salem because these were individuals who acted outside of their duty and violated the law.
Your time is up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ron.
Appreciate your time.
Yes. Jackie, and after Jackie will be Tom Hoffert.
Good evening, Mayor, when you are rewatching this, and counselors and staff.
My name is Jackie Roche. I live in Ward 4. I own a house cleaning company that serves both Salem and Kaiser. I've been in business for 15 years and I've had staff for 14 of those years. As a small business owner, the safety of my employees is my responsibility. Before sending anyone into a home, I personally meet the client, do a walkthrough to make sure it is a safe environment. There have been many times when I have chosen to turn down business for safety reasons. We serve clients downtown regularly, and we perform move-out cleans in that area as well. I have many friends who own businesses downtown, and I hear directly from them about their safety concerns. I think of those stories every time I send my staff downtown. A side note, this is not always referring to the unsheltered population, just in general, right? Often my employees cannot park close enough to jobs and are forced to walk a considerable distance, sometimes through alleyways to get to the property. Their hands are full with cleaning supplies and equipment. Their car doors are open as they are unloading and loading. They're focused on their work and not necessarily their surroundings. Most of my employees are young women and have voiced how unsafe they feel working downtown. As a business owner, I cannot ignore their concerns. If things continue as they are, I will likely make the difficult decision to stop serving the downtown area altogether. As you head into the next 2 weeks, as you guys go into your work session, I want you guys just to think about the day-to-day activities. I encourage you to think about the wide variety of people who come downtown and why they come downtown. Some, like my staff, come for work. One of my friends owns a gym where her clientele is primarily women, and her entrance to her gym is in the alleyway. Moms bringing their babies to meet other moms for coffee. Daughters like me taking my mom to the grand opening or the soft opening of Clink, right? To the new restaurants that are opening up. People heading to yoga or the bank. Those are everyday people, but they are also vulnerable people simply trying to go about their lives. Our downtown business owners deserve to have their investments and their livelihoods protected. They chose downtown and they chose to put everything they have into that area. And that protection comes in many forms, one of which is a stronger, more visible bike patrol presence. It helps create not only real safety, but also the feeling of safety that encourages people to come downtown, feel secure doing so. Along with that, the bicycle cops, they engage and they get to know the businesses downtown. They can offer advice on what they legally have rights to do. They get to know them, and so that people can better approach what is happening and, be more educated. It's all about prevention, not strong arming. And I think that having this will increase the vitality of our downtown community. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony, Jackie. I've come to understand that Scott Russell is back, so I will go ahead and ask him to join, and then Tom, you will be following him. Mr. Russell?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just go with the audio if that's okay. My name is Scott Russell and I work in Ward 1. I was homeless from 2013 to 2018. During that time, Salvation Army's Lighthouse Shelter on Front Street offered 24/7 access to the restroom. Homeless people in that area could use that restroom even if they weren't staying at the shelter. Because 24/7 restroom access is so important, I often stayed in that general area. I was fortunate then. Salvation Army, since then, Salvation Army discontinued that courtesy after hours. It's kind of an unwritten rule that if homeless camp on any business or storefront, then you must vacate by 7 a.m. latest and leave no mess behind. When business owners give grace to those on the streets who camp in their property overnight, this is commendable and appreciated. Thank you. It's sad that businesses are dealing with messes sometimes. No one should need to clean up after others, but please consider the utter lack of restrooms downtown after business hours these days, and please consider the state of mind some people are in. My state of mind was clear, and I was not drowning in addiction or struggling with mental illness, so I was able to sleep and behave respectfully on others' property. Many others are not as lucky. There are not enough places for unsheltered people to be, sleep, or live with the wraparound services and supports they need. They still need livability with basic human needs met. They are still human beings who need our help. As we consider actions to increase livability in Salem, punitive policies, aggressive policing, and sweeping people from place to place adds trauma and hardship and puts people further and further into survival mode and causes more desperation and less hope. These practices result in reducing livability for people experiencing homelessness, which reduces livability for all. We need more resources for people experiencing mental illness and addiction. We need more first responders that include a mental health professional for mental health situations. We need more resources that help people meet basic human needs. These are proven strategies that increase livability for all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony, and I'm glad that we were able to get you on. So
Thank you.
the last of those that are giving testimony is Mr. Hoffert. If you would like to come in, we're ready for you.
Thank you so much, Council President Nishioka. Members of the City Council, my name is Tom Hoffert, and I serve as CEO of the Salem Chamber, a local business advocacy organization located in Ward 1. I also reside in Ward 1. Our organization represents over 1,000 business members here in this city and nearly over 45,000 employees. And we've been partnering with the City of Salem since 1884 to help businesses prosper so our entire community may thrive. Today, our downtown is really struggling to survive. And there's a lot of conversations that are pitting people who are actually dear allies of each other. And that's our residents who want a strong downtown, as well as our advocates for individuals facing houselessness. Businesses are experiencing damage of property, trespassing, littering, defecation, theft, open drug use, and dangerous activity, making our downtown unsafe and unwelcome for customers as well as employees. Like the strategic care you discussed earlier today for houseless individuals, so too strategic care is warranted for our business owners. I also received the letter from Jimmy Jones, a gentleman I have a great deal of respect for and call a friend. And as passionate as Jimmy is about our homeless individuals, I also share a deep passion for the men and women who choose to go into private business to provide paychecks in our community. And often the barometer of a successful community is the health of its downtown. These business owners have risked everything, taking on massive financial obligations and risk to provide employment opportunities for our residents and offering amenities that make Salem so special and a desired place to live. The pressure placed on business owners to assign the front of a paycheck, oftentimes while foregoing a paycheck for themselves, is hard enough without the illegal activities that are consistently driving people away from our downtown area. And it's quite disheartening for the business owners and their employees. To suggest the business community is without empathy would be a categorical misconception and misappropriation of words. The business community are often the ones found donating the most to our social services and driving those boards of directors to try and find solutions. We as an organization are very encouraged that you're going to be taking on the work of evaluating what could be done to improve our downtown conditions. We applaud you for that work, and we stand waiting to stand by your side to assist in very successful outcomes.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you coming in for testimony. That concludes those that signed up for testimony. Anything anybody needs to say before I adjourn our meeting? Thank you all for your patience, and I think we had an excellent meeting that we had to harken back to the COVID days. So thank you all for your help on this, and we'll see you at the next one. Good night.
Night.